evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 190th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Euless, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a monster show. Yes. Dad joke, pun, whatever. I nailed it right there. It is going to be awesome. A monster take, and I'm so excited to have these gentlemen with us tonight. We're going to be talking about some amazing cigars, an amazing series, and it's all happening right here tonight. So you definitely want to stick around for this. But before we do get started, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible, and that, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate is about to make someone a whole lot richer. During the Freestyle Live show on the company's Facebook Live page, Drew Estate announced that they will hold a Bitcoin sweepstakes with numerous incredible prizes during upcoming Freestyle Live events. So on February 17th of the edition of Freestyle Live, a lucky winner will get a full entire Bitcoin, and the entries can be made during the Freestyle Live event. So they've already had one on October 15th. They just had one a few days ago on the 11th, but you have one more chance to get a full Bitcoin from Drew Estate on January 20th. And then the show will be on February 17th, 2022. So check it out. You are about to get a whole lot richer thanks to Drew Estate, with the grand prize being a full Bitcoin from Drew Estate. Five winners from each of these three shows will get entered into. So check it out. Don't miss the last event on January 20th so that you can earn a chance to win a Bitcoin from Drew Estate. Well, welcome everyone. This is going to be the monster take that I have been wanting to do for this for a while. So I'm really pleased that these two gentlemen are joining us tonight. So without further ado, sponsored by United Cigars, smoke one today and start living united. Misters Pete Johnson and Ben Lee. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Pretty good. Can't complain. I'm trying to figure out how to get in the Drew Estate sweepstakes though.
I think they're pretty. I hear that they're kind of a little bit more lax on some of their rules as far as like who's eligible and stuff.
Yeah, they have to be, because technically they better have some good ass lawyers involved with that one, because I don't think you're allowed to like do a sweepstakes unless you allow everybody to join it.
Fair enough.
I only know this because I got potentially sued by someone. Anyways, I'm trying to reshare Ben's thing. So talk amongst yourselves.
So really excited to join everyone tonight, to have everyone join in, because this is going to be a fantastic show, because we have got the king of the monsters here, Mr. Pete Johnson. And for you all that actually joined Ben and I last night, we had the Smoking Syndicate, which is Ben's, Ben, what do you call it? It's your brand, your show. Like I'm a part of it, and I don't even know what to call it. So
yeah, man, I'm the host of it, but it's from the Coop Coalition.
Yeah, the really. Cigar Coop Coalition, Smoking Syndicate. Yeah. We did a roundtable number 4 in which you and I smoked a cigar from the recently released Monster Mash. We Correct. Did a random selection. I drew the Kruger, you drew the Michael. And do a little bit of a recap on that and tell everyone what we're smoking tonight, because we're going to be smoking some more monsters.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So what we did last night was we basically put on all the cigars on a randomizer wheel and spun it to see what we're going to smoke. And so we came up for the Kruger. For Bear, for me, was the Michael. Turned out it was a lot of fun. It was awesome. We both thoroughly enjoyed our cigars. So we thought about tonight, how we'd start this off would be, tonight I will smoke the Kruger to start off, and Bear will smoke the Michael. That's where we're at.
Absolutely.
There you go.
So give everyone a quick view. If they've been sleeping under a rock, they can see what the Monster Mash box looks like. And Peter, just a fantastic job overall. You and your team. Just the packaging as always has been lights out. But I didn't think about this until actually early this morning. I don't know why it took me so long to dawn on, because you do every dress box this way, but it's more subtle, but it's a much wider coffin, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I'll tell you, you can thank Jaime Garcia for making that box happen. Obviously, I want certain things from the factory, and during like a crunchy year like this year has been for everybody. When you tell them I need 13,000 boxes and they have to look like this, it kind of throws a little bit of a wrench into the system. If I just went with a straight slide top cabinet, without the extra shape, it would have been a little easier, but it's still a lot of boxes to produce. So thanks to Jaime Garcia for taking the, putting his box factory in the works so that can be done in that shape.
You look just like this guy back there. It's weird. It's uncanny.
Well, it's funny you say that because I wish I looked like that guy. He's about, I don't know, 25 pounds lighter and about 4 years younger.
He's rocking a mean stash though, but you got the beard game going, so that's
it's hard to see the beard nowadays. It's all gray and shit on the sides.
Dude, who you telling?
Yeah.
Speaking of, by the way, Ben,
welcome to the club.
Speaking of beards, did you watch the lead up to the F1 race today?
No, I missed. I was doing homework, dude.
Oh man, Beckham was there.
Oh, I saw Beckham. Yeah, I did see Beckham.
Did you see how much he dyed his beard? I'm like, come on, man. Like,
you're not fooling anybody.
You're 46, and I've seen you with a gray beard. This is just awkward.
I know, dude. I'm a big Manchester United fan, so I have like a massive man crush on him. So that was cool, bit weird.
Yeah, who doesn't have a man crush on David Beckham? Like, people the guy never ages.
People who don't like soccer don't have a man crush on David Beckham. So,
yeah,
fair. That's
fair.
Your problem.
Fair.
No, I said I said people who don't like soccer have a man crush on.
I gotcha. Yeah,
yeah.
He's an icon now, dude.
Yeah,
especially in Miami.
Yeah. Now I know he's going to be at the F1 race in Miami. Actually, I have one big regret with that whole thing. I actually got tickets.
What?
I got 4 start finish tickets.
Why is that a regret?
Because I decided that it was something I wanted to do, and I put like a deposit in, where like it was early on. They put a deposit in, but they had so many deposits it took them a week to get to me. But by the time they got to me, like all the hospitality stuff was sold out, and I was kind of a little bit perturbed by that because I thought the deposit was to get hospitality. And then I found out I said, "What's the hospitality mean?" The guy goes, "Oh, it's just a slightly better seat in the club level, and then you get food." I'm like, "I'll eat at home. Like, I don't care." But the tickets they're not cheap, but if you look at them now, they're 5 times the price. So technically, I could just sell the 4 I have at start finish and make about $30,000.
Jesus Christ!
It's that crazy. But my regret was not buying more. The cheapest seat was in this one area they called the beach, and it was a little bit far out the way. But my regret was that I didn't buy a whole row, and have them for a bunch of friends to go to the race. So
I thought your regret was buying 4, and now then telling us all about it, and then you're going to get a bunch of people hounding you to come.
Yeah, and honestly, the 4 are very well spoken for. I made the mistake of telling my wife that maybe the race can be a guy thing, and she about killed me.
So me asking to be that part of the sponsorship deal is a no-go? Is that what you're saying?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Son of a bitch.
I think
dude, it was nothing that I was like, okay, why am I actually said to myself, why am I doing this? And it was because I want to do it at least once.
Yeah.
Although, did you happen to see George freaking Lucas at the Qatar race today? I'm like, yeah. Does he go to every race? Is that what it is? Who just randomly goes to Qatar? Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah. No, they made it. I don't know if it was a joke, but they made a comment about he's filming something there. In the area.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if that was Star like Wars? A little like, but no, we can't. He sold it all off to Disney. He has no part of it anymore. but that would be awesome, honestly, because they're just destroying the franchise. But that would be, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if that was just like a comment, like, oh, he's probably filming somewhere, or he really is. But that's the comment they made on the Sky Channel.
Yeah, and of course Beckham was there because of the whole World Cup thing.
Yeah.
So
that's why they can't have it in the race next year. They're moving it for the World Cup.
Before we kick off things tonight, gentlemen, there's a question in the chat about this discussion of F1. Who are the teams? Who are your teams in F1?
Well, okay, I'll let you go.
Well, okay, so I kind of have two, and one just recently. But I'm a big Mercedes Petronas fan, which I kind of hate to say now because they keep winning and winning and winning. So it kind of sounds douchey, but I really love. You like
winners, like the World Series champion Atlanta Braves. Yeah, that's a.
Yeah,
well, okay. That's okay. Sorry,
I can't help it that I start liking a team and they win. I'm saying it just happens. So
yeah, see, I'm kind of the opposite with the whole. As soon as I start liking something, they start losing. I'm actually rooting for Verstappen and Perez with Red Bull for the championship, only because I'm tired of watching Mercedes win.
Yeah.
But give props to Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he's considered one of the best or the best driver ever. He's just a beast, dude. The kid is amazing. I call him a kid because he's younger than me. So, but I love Ferrari just because it's Ferrari and it's the colors are awesome.
The history of it, Yeah,
the history of it. But I got more intrigued with all the moving parts of F1 because of that Netflix show, which is Drive to Survive. And Daniel Ricciardo from McLaren, he's comical, hysterical. He was on Red Bull before, of course. I like the main guy at the Red Bull. I can't remember his name, but like I'll give you an example. I hate Toto Wolff from Mercedes. I think he's just a dick. So
half his team hates him, so he's an asshole.
There you go. I'll tell you, I think who has the best outfits, like swag, is Alfa Romeo. Their swag's really nice.
Oh yeah,
it's Italian.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
They know how to make clothes. So
right.
Well, I don't know about
cars.
That. I don't know about that because Ferrari has a clothing line called I forgot what they call it, Ferrari Lifestyle or Ferrari Style, and it's fucking horrible. It's absolutely no. I was like, who the heck would wear this shit? And there's someone, but they're just. I think they just needed to waste some money, and that's how they're wasting it. I mean, they could easily just waste it in F1 because there's a few $100 million every year that they could just blow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good. I'm getting kind of sick of seeing. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm kind of sick of seeing Lewis Hamilton win every time too. So I mean, it's getting kind of monotonous a little bit. That's why I love when Max came on the scene. But Lando's my favorite one right now.
Yeah, Lando's good. Who starts winning when Lewis leaves? But I don't think Lewis is going to retire anytime soon because shit, man, look how long Fernando Alonso's been driving.
Right.
He left F1 and came back. I mean, shit.
Yep.
That guy can drive in anything with wheels, man. I'm really convinced.
And by the way, I didn't look up what Lewis gets paid, which I'm sure is a crap ton, but Max Verstappen makes $25 million a year. That's a lot of money per race. I guess they're driving for their lives because they technically, hit the wrong bump and God forbid that would happen. But these kids are nuts. What goes on in a 21-year-old kid's head? I don't know. Max a little older than that, but like Lance Stroll, isn't he 21 years old?
He's pretty young.
What goes on in his head to say, yeah, I want to do this? I know they've been doing it since they were 6 years old, but they're going a lot faster than a go-kart right now.
Definitely. Well, gentlemen, we had a fun icebreaker plan tonight, but then it kind of just worked into F1 and stuff. So I think we enlightened a lot of our audience tonight. There are a lot of people that didn't know you guys were F1 fans. So that's
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know we were coming to talk about cigars. I thought we were just going to shoot the shit.
Well, we could do that too. That's good.
Yeah,
So
that's tradition.
I think usually the best shows are usually the ones where we just talk crap. I have a moth that's like hanging out here for some reason.
Yeah, you're in Florida.
Yeah, he'll go away eventually. Oh, the humidity down here is crazy right now because we got a lot of rain.
I don't miss
it. Was supposed to, the temperature dropped, so I'm actually able to come out with a sweatshirt on, but at the same time, like it's wet out here because it rained a lot today and yesterday. Anyway, icebreaker part 2.
Icebreaker part 2. So Pete, we have actually, and they're actually, I think most of them might be even in the chat too. But on a recent interview you gave on How About That Cigar, you impressed me with a very talented skill, which was it actually had nothing to do with cigars. So this will be along the lines of what you were just saying. You give a mean Sean Connery impression. I was really impressed. In fact, I didn't watch it live. I listened later, and when I was listening to it, I kind of almost did this like double take, even though I was just listening, because I thought they were playing a video or something. It was really good. It was really good. You've been practicing that for a while, or how did that come about?
It came about from a buddy of mine. Well, we were at the Grand Event Room one night, and we heard a conversation that happened on a movie set, and it was a quote that Sean Connery said to the cast and the crew because he wanted to finish the scene and wrap the movie. And he said this line, and for years we would see each other and we would say the line to each other. So it just became a thing for us. I'll tell you though, when I was a kid, very young, obviously, Rich Little was like one of my favorite people to watch because I love the fact that he could change his voice. And when I was younger, I actually used to like to do that and impersonate people. So it's hard for me to like have a conversation with someone about someone else without kind of impersonating that person. But it takes me a little bit to get into the rhythm of it. Like I haven't done impersonations for years, but I used to love doing them when I was really young.
Should pick that back up and like start doing impersonations of people in the cigar industry.
Well, everybody I think kind of knows that I do Rocky. You have no idea. I use white pepper, black pepper, Peruvian tobacco, Poco Panamanian. Rocky's got that one of those voices. There's actually, I think what was it? The actor, Liev Schreiber, right? Liev Schreiber?
Yeah.
Is that his name? He does an amazing, what's his name? Oh, no, I'm blanking. I hate dead air time. Anyways, he does amazing impersonations, but he says the reason he's able to do those voices because he has a very his tone of his voice is already there, so it's a short stretch to get to that next level.
Yeah.
God, what was the guy's name? Why am I blanking? The guy that played Meet the Fockers, the father,
Robert De Niro.
Oh, Robert De Niro.
No, the other one.
No, are you talking about
Dustin Hoffman?
Dustin Hoffman, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liev Schreiber does a great Dustin Hoffman, but it's because Liev's voice is very similar to it already.
Right.
But it usually takes me a couple drinks and a couple goes, and it really depends on the mood I'm in before I can hit someone's note.
If
I spoke Spanish better, I can do a really good pepin.
That would be funny.
Yeah, you could. I'm trying to get Ben into some Spanish lessons so that so you can start rolling his R's a little bit better.
Dude, I said Spanish for 4 years. I just said one word I couldn't get right, and it was hilarious because it had such a southern twang to it.
Yeah, I'm not a good rolling my R's guy either, though. That's a tough one because words that have 2 R's and 1 R, they kind of sound like they're alike, but you have to roll the R's and one of them more than others, and I never get them right. I just say it in pure gringo.
Well, it just sounds like it sounds obnoxious too. Like when you say like common everyday things, like everyone in the world says the word burrito, and like you say burrito, it just sounds like you're being obnoxious. So
yeah, I always like the guys that they get their NPR voice on, and they're like,
in a world.
Well, tonight, what are you smoking tonight? Well, tonight I'm smoking a patagas. Like, get the fuck out of here. Tonight I'm smoking a Romeo y Julieta. It's like they start sounding very normal, and then all of a sudden they become like, the Latin king.
So in the spirit of this, and in homage to our friends at How About That Cigar, I thought we would. So the reason I brought this up is because I've been known to have at least a decent Sean Connery impression. At least it gets mentioned enough to where I've done this impression enough at parties and stuff like that, and people just think it's funny. So
give me your best. Give me your best.
My best.
Give me your best.
Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
Well, that was not family friendly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, great quote from The Rock, actually.
Right. That was a movie I saw. So I was obsessed with when I was like, I've done that line like so many times. It's ridiculous. But so what we did in preparation for this show, Pete, I sent you over some lines which you were kind enough to actually do some research on and correct me on some of them. So that's good.
Well, I had to make sure that the line was correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
plus I wanted to listen because I don't like Finding Forrester is one of my favorite movies.
Absolutely.
But the other movies, I don't really know his inflections in the movie, so it's really about how he says it, and that's where you capture a little bit of it.
Oh, 100%. So I sent you 3 quotes. I sent Ben the 3 quotes as well. Ben's going to be the unbiased judge tonight. So you and I are going to say these 3 lines, and Ben is going to judge us on who has the best Sean Connery impression. So
so silly, but okay.
So we're going to go with the first night quote first. Pete, as the guest of honor, you can go first.
No, I always like to go second.
Fair enough. So I take the good with the bad together. I can't love people in slices.
Okay. Me remember the line in the movie. I take the good and bad together. I can't love people in slices.
Okay, so next is Finding Forrester. So it's not the you're the man now dog line, which is like the one that grabs your attention, but which would have been a lot funnier. I actually love this scene. So it's where he's talking to Jamal about click. No, punch the damn keys. No thinking. That comes later. You write your first draft with your heart. You rewrite with your head. The first key to writing is write, not think.
Okay, so I don't read lines that well, so I have to. Fuck. No thinking. Hold on. Let me do that again. No thinking. That comes later. You write You write your first draft with your heart. You rewrite with your head. The first key to writing is to write, not to think. Not bad, not great.
Nice. You got the you have the I have to do this booming version of it. Like
you're doing the caricature of Sean Connery.
Right.
Sean Connery.
Yeah. You have the subtlety down though. That's the thing. You're going full on Scottish. Yeah.
Like with the Rock quote, your best.
Your best. Yeah.
Your best. Losers are always whining about the best, while winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
Carla was the prom queen. Really?
Yeah, the classic.
So Oh, that was an unofficial, but we got to throw the Untouchables in here. So this is the last one, Pete. So do you want me to go first, or you want to roll it?
Dude, yeah, when you do quotes, man, out of a movie, you got to go for something shorter. Dude, these are fucking long. Dude. It's like I'm reading lines from like this is not something I do. For
all right, so why don't we just take the last two sentences? The last two sentences of the Untouchables.
No, it's actually a good scene. It is a good scene.
All right.
You kind of have to get all of it in there to kind of get the gist of it anyway. So
you want to know how you get Capone? He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. And that's how you get Capone.
Okay, I'm gonna give you that one right off the bat. Dude, I'm not gonna bother. Because that was actually really good. Because you got every little if anybody wants to go and watch that off camera, Bear did a good job getting every little nuance of it. So I'm gonna pass on that and give it to you.
All right, so round one, Ben. Who got the first night quote?
I think you got the round one.
All right,
I'll give it to you.
And Finding Forrester.
I think P got that one. And of course, you obviously got third because he defaulted.
He defaulted.
Yeah, because he Bear actually did it as well as I was going to try to do it. So it's just not even worth me trying.
And it was funny too because I love that movie. So soon as y'all said, well, we started the quote, that scene popped in my head, right? Yeah. And I remembered every inflection that he had in that whole line. It was perfect. It was
he's so fucking good in that movie. He's so fucking good in that movie. That's unbelievable.
He made that movie.
Yeah, because he says like he pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one to the hospital, you send one to the morgue. You know, like he does the whole question answer thing, which is great. Sean Connery, was one of those guys that I got to meet him once actually on a movie set, and it was actually I was on the movie set with my tattoo artist, so he was doing the tattoo for the guy on Rising Sun, and in walked Wesley Snipes and Sean Connery to get their makeup done, and we started talking about tattoos with Sean Connery, so it was kind of fucking cool.
That's awesome. I love that movie too. I love that movie.
Yeah. Those are one of those few people you meet that you're like, I'm glad I actually got to just sit in a very like nondescript moment with them. It wasn't like, oh, hey, Mr. Connery, I really like your stuff. No, it was just like, I have one tattoo. It's of my mother. Because he was in what, the Scottish Navy, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
English Navy.
The English Navy, though.
British Navy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, splitting hairs. Same thing. Same difference. Now, if you'd said Irish, that would have been
I think back then it might have been the Scottish Navy.
It hasn't been the Scottish Navy since 1725. Sorry.
He was pretty old when he died.
Well, he was very much a Scot. He was very much a Scot. Like my distributor in the UK is very much a Scot. Not only his name is Scott Vines, but he wears the kilt everywhere. So they're very proud of their portion of the country.
I guess except when they had to vote on it, then they didn't. So, I was gonna say, who does a really good impression of somebody? Our friends, John McTavish of Developing Palates does an amazing Christopher Walken.
Oh, well, so that's a tough one. Walken's always been that's always been a tough one for me.
He does it really good, like really good. Next time we see him at the trade show or something, we'll get him to do it. It's hilarious.
I had a buddy of mine that used to work the door at that. Well, he was one of the managers at the House of Blues here actually not here, but in Los Angeles. And he was so good at Walken that Dan Aykroyd ran into him one day and said, "Hey, Emil, do Walken. I got Walken on the phone with me. Like, Do walk him.
Wow.
And then
Oh, shit.
Aykroyd said to him, said, do me. and he actually did a really good Dan Aykroyd too.
I love Dan.
Yeah,
Aykroyd,
this
too.
guy was I don't know if he wanted to be an actor, but he did really good shit. Then
That's
I've
cool.
been around a lot of talented people, like musicians especially. They really like to impersonate people. I had a buddy of mine that was really great with Christian Bale. He was a punk rock guitar player, but he would even look like Christian Bale when he was doing it. It was wild.
Wow.
That's a random one too, because he always, I mean, for the most part, he does not, he's got the British accent, and
yeah, but he would do the scene from God, why am I blanking tonight? See, I took a nap before this whole thing, so I'm a little out of it.
so like Batman Begins, or
No, the movie that he's most famous for, the serial killer one.
American Psycho.
Yeah, American Psycho. He did the whole, scene where he's playing the music and doing the whole thing about was it Genesis and Phil Collins?
Nice. That's pretty.
Have y'all ever seen the movie he was in called Equilibrium?
Yeah.
Christian Bale.
Yeah, him
I don't
and
know if I've seen that.
Tay Diggs.
That movie is awesome. It was like older release in Europe, so when I got to see it was like a DVD. Dating myself here, it was freaking awesome. The clerics and the gun kata. You should watch that. That's a really good movie.
I'm sure I've seen it, but I'm a little, again, I took a nap before this whole thing. You guys start this shit late, dude.
How old are you? A nap? Is it like 9 o'clock? No, not for you.
Dude,
It's
No,
not
not
for
for
him.
him.
It's 11
It's
now.
11
Not
for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's 11
So-
now, but no, I don't know. I've been cooking all day. We cooked a shit ton yesterday. I just got tired today. Wanted to just chill out and watch TV. And even the wife was like, "You want to go do something?" I said, "Yeah, I'm doing it." It's called sitting on the couch doing nothing.
All right. Well, let's in the spirit of that, let's go ahead and kick things off with our tonight's major point, which is always brought to you by Protocol Cigars. Tonight's major point is brought to you by the people, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is, but behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Bass Reeves, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. So, Pete, to kick things off here, like I asked you to be on the show, and I asked Ben to kind of co-host it with me because, Ben's done a lot of work with you over the years in terms of some interviews. He's even broken some news in this particular subject a couple of times.
Yeah,
and it is one of my favorite series, if not my favorite series in the premium cigar industry. I've been a fan of it ever since the Drac. I didn't, as you know, and we've had discussions about this, I never got to smoke the original Frank. That was the only one that I've missed. But it's been a hell of a ride to enjoy along the way. So I thought it'd be a fun exploration to kind of explore the Monster series in retrospect with the man who created it. So thanks for joining us tonight on it. We really appreciate it.
absolutely.
So let's kick things off from the beginning here. So like, was the idea to be a series from the beginning, or you just wanted to create the Frank and that's kind of where it started?
No, the concept came up in a conversation between a buddy of mine and a few other people at a place called Gloucester Street Cigars in Boston. No longer there, but it was that moment of like, he just straight up told me I needed to do something with the theme because I needed something more than just the regular product I was doing in the lineup. And I had a couple limited editions here and there, but he thought it'd be cool. We had already done a few things and limited edition things, and he's like, "You should have a theme cigar." And he showed me a pair of Nikes that had Frankenstein on them, and I was like, "Oh, Frankenstein! There you go, monsters, perfect. That's easy." And it literally went down the rabbit hole of me, designing the box in my head, thinking of the concept of how many cigars to have per box, what the price point was going to be, the shape of the box, obviously, the colors of the bands, and every monster had to mimic the cigar had to kind of mimic the monster a little bit. Obviously, with Frankenstein, he had to be tall and box pressed, tall and square. So I think when I left that night, when I got back to my hotel room, I had pretty much mapped out, like, I don't know, it might have been like 8 or 9 years of it already. And then I knew I had Bride as always going to be the last one. So that's why if you notice, I went from 10, which was Michael, all the way to the Bride, because I kind of wanted the Monster series to end in some way. Not end, but like just to finish so I could go back to normal. And there's another media guy that his OCD was kicking in, and he was pissed off that I didn't do 10 and 11 and 12. So that's where Chuck and Tiff came in, since I had already done them before. So.
But so the Frank was one of those things, like, I think that obviously it really captured attention, like from the very beginning. You up production the very next year, and Ben has some questions about the Drac, I know, here in just a second. But what was, I mean, obviously the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. You probably wouldn't have continued if it had not been. But what was it like to kind of see, you had this vision in your head in the very beginning, like you said, you dreamt it all up, and right, pretty much on the spot, and then for it to take off the way it did. I mean, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, the first year, it was 666 boxes. That's all we did, and they're all numbered. And of course, I peel off like 30 something, or no, 20 something of them, and I always wanted to have a collection of boxes in my rat hole at the office, to make sure that we have backup for future purposes. But the next year, it was easy to get. The first year, I knew guys that were getting 7, 8, 9 boxes of them, because it only went to 13 stores, and each store got 50 boxes, and I kept whatever the leftover was. Actually, that's only 15 or 16 boxes. And it was one of those things that the next year I upped production a little bit, and I decided to do the actor version of the Monster. That idea came from Matt Krim from Drapers. He's the one that said you should do something based off the actor that played Frankenstein, of course, Boris Karloff, and I called it the Boris, which I ended up getting permission from Jeff Borshwitz, who actually owns the trademark Boris because of his kid. So that was kind of like that short burst of production after. It was really the third year that the production went to a different level.
Yeah, so Ben and I actually started the Monster series. He missed out on the original Frank too, and Ben, the Drac was actually your first, and we were talking about this last night. It not to steal your thunder here, but it's actually your favorite.
Yeah, I thought the Drac was really good. Now, I remember back in the day, it was a little bit of controversy when that first came out, right? I mean, with those boxes with the lacquer was on there.
The paint on the inside, I thought it would be cool to have a, obviously Drac's coffin that he sleeps in was black on the outside, but red velvet on the inside, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I always thought it'd be really cool to have, red on the inside of the box. This is why you'll never see me paint the inside of a box again, because it was just it was a fun concept, but the box maker, who actually no longer works with us, the box maker decided to make the boxes like the week before the production was supposed to be released. So they got packed at the wrong time, and I didn't notice it until I had already started shipping the product. So before I knew it, I had to literally go back and tell everybody, like, if you got them and you want replacements, I'll send you replacement cigars. Just send me the other cigars back. And then it turned out, and I told everybody, if you want to keep them, take them out of the box. And of course, a lot of people didn't want to take them out of the box because they wanted to keep the box intact and original. And later on down the line, when people started, using these monster boxes as like trade bait and stuff like that, or selling them on the gray market, people would be like, yeah, you open it, I don't want to buy it. Like, but I told everybody to open them.
Yeah.
So it was a good concept, bad execution.
I thought it was really cool, and that's what I did. I actually opened mine, took them out.
Yeah.
It's like, I actually put the box so I could set out in the sun for a little while, let it kind of air out.
I actually, because we keep a bunch, and I separated all the bundles. Even on the Boris boxes that didn't have paint on the inside, I still separated the cigars. So we're really careful nowadays when it comes to the production. We want to make sure that they're done at least, a few months ahead of time before we start packing anything. Because boxes can hold that smell for a long time, especially on the inside of the box. That's why it'll never happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about on the show last night. I like the Drac. I mean, I enjoyed the cigar.
Yeah.
But Dracula was always, and Vampire was always kind of a cool thing for me when I was younger. So whenever I was in like a freshman in college, it's whenever Interview with the Vampire came out, it was a real big, right? And Anne Rice, I was a big fan of her books, in New Orleans, right?
Yep.
So I kind of delved into the vampire, kind of the myth of it, right? But like started reading up on all the different myths, the true myths, not Dracula, but vampire myths. And it was kind of cool that I was finding all these myths of a vampire type creature in almost every major civilization going back thousands of years, which I thought was kind of fascinating in its own right.
Yeah.
And I actually had one of my organic chemistry teachers was from China. And I remember I'd finished one of my tests real early, and I was talking to her, and I asked her, and I forgot what the name it was now, about the Chinese version of the vampire. And she said, "Oh, yeah." She almost didn't want to talk about it, like it was like a boogeyman. Like I'm like say, "Oh, yeah, it's kind of like real hushed." I'm like, it ain't sitting behind the damn door. I mean, what is wrong? But I just thought that was kind of funny, that one of our professors was like, "Yeah, I know all about it. I don't really want to talk about it," But I just thought it was fascinating that it seemed like all major civilizations and throughout the world all had some type of vampire type monster in their myths and legends. I thought that was kind of fascinating. Even ones that had no connections whatsoever, right? I thought was kind of neat. So when the Drac came out, that was I've got to have that. I got to go get that cigar no matter what. So that one I chased halfway across the country to get.
Yeah, I really like the cigar in general because everybody asks me, everybody assumes that a monster is going to be strong. And that's not the case. Every monster has its own little nuance to it when you look at the character of the monster. And Drac was, kind of silent with a little bit of a bite to it. And that's really the point behind the blend, was more on the milder side. It's more based off of the base of where Cabai Juan sits, but with that dark Habano, which actually ups that strength a little bit, so it gives you that bite. So it's
which is
always
ironic.
been about, what's that?
Which is ironic, a little bite.
Yeah.
No,
it's kind of the same thing with the Mummy. The Mummy was always very a silent killer for me too, and that's why it was so nuanced with the style of cigar that was. Same thing with Michael. He was like the creepy guy that would sneak up on you and kill you before you even knew he was there. And that cigar, it's a silent killer to me, because you start it and it seems pretty flavorful and peaceful, and then your stomach starts to get a little moving, like you need to eat some food or something.
That's what I talked about last night when I was smoking the Michael. It started out seemed like it was kind of real medium, low medium, and the cigar, it just started ramping up and got to the end. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, on paper, the Michael is actually a fairly strong cigar, but it's got good balance, so it actually stays pretty quiet for a little while.
Yeah.
So just a quick interjection, gentlemen. We've got Brian Lewis in the chat, and Brian's doing a fantastic uh, cause and using the Karloff as a as a tool here. So he's actually giving away a box of Karloff starting today for in honor of a friend and that is that I guess is ill. So he's doing a GoFundMe, and then there he's actually doing a giveaway with Karloff. So he posted the link in the chat. I'll Brian, I'll drop that in the show notes too later. Probably be a little too late at that point, but at least to give some great attention to it. And it's if I'm not mistaken, it's Steve Toth actually, who's actually been a fan of this show. He's tuned in quite a bit, and I know he's been a big fan of yours for a long time too, Pete. And yeah, all the best to Steve and Brian. What a great cause! Thank you so much for doing this and giving away a box of Karloff, man. Fantastic. So,
I suppose I should look at the comments. I don't see the comments. Maybe I'm looking at something else, but keep on asking. I love answering questions in the comment thread, but for some reason I'm not seeing them.
So I mean, so to go move into the next monster here, Pete. So like you like you said, each kind of cigar is kind of taking on the persona a little bit of it, not only in blend but also in look.
Mm-hmm.
The Frankenstein is if my memory serves, that is the biggest of all of them.
No, it's actually not.
It's not.
It's a 7 5/8 by 49, but then you have the Mummy, which is a longer cigar but thinner.
That's right. Okay.
And then you have the Jason, which is actually 7.5 by 52. So Jason technically would be the biggest. No, but then you got the face, which is 58 ring gauge. Is that a 58? No, it's 60. So yeah, you're talking about the bigger ring gauge. It might be the face. It might be the biggest cigar.
There you go. So
with girth goes, I guess.
And with this persona, so the band, so you remove the branding from the cigar itself in favor of basically this extra leaf of tobacco, which, if I'm not mistaken, was Connecticut.
Yeah. It was just to kind of give that image of patchwork and how he patched his face together. I took that away for the Monster Mash because I wanted all the cigars to kind of look uniform, and it actually to a lot of people's disappointment. So
you did that with the skinny monsters too. I know we're getting the skinnies here in a second, but you did that with the skinnies as well.
Yeah.
But
I'll probably end up doing with the full size face when I get to it in 2023. I'll probably end up going back to putting that extra piece of wrapper on as where the band will sit, but then I'll put the band on top of that because I do want it to have a band.
Yeah,
I will say that's one of the coolest looking cigars. When it was released, I thought, damn, that is just like Leatherface. Like you look at that, and I was like, oh, that's Leatherface.
It's funny. It's funny because now it's kind of a typical cigar in our world of cigars. We see that a lot. That's become a thing. Covered feet, that whole thing, and that's a very popular item now too.
Yeah, I think as far as that is my oldest original that I have left. I don't have any more Drax. I don't have any more of the original face. But Ben, I think you and I were talking about this last night. Both of you and I have one left. I have one Wolfman left.
I have an entire box left.
So
I have one unopened box and one half full.
By the way, the face is a 56. I really have to freshen up on my knowledge of my own brand.
Yeah, I guess it's relative. When I mentioned the size of the Frank, I think like overall, not necessarily
big,
factoring in gauge, and I think combination of both gauge and length too was what I was kind of going after. But yeah, no, absolutely. There's a couple of nuances into these other ones. But just to go back to before we dive fully into Wolfman. Last question from the face, and I think Ben has some questions about the Wolf particularly, but the idea, I know you did it with you did it with the Boris, so you kind of went back to this but made it part of the full series, which was no, that's not right. Forget that comparison. But you went to a more modern day, like, Frank and Drac, these are classic beats, they're classic horror monster films. And Leatherface was a little bit more of a modern twist, probably what like the three of us grew up watching. When we think of horror films, he's one of those iconic characters that we think of.
That was a pattern that I kind of set out to begin with, was always going to be two old and one new. It would always go in that order: two old, one new, two old, one new, two old, one new, and then kind of got screwed up towards the end. But it kept the theme for a while. It worked out perfect though, because if you look at Jekyll and Hyde, those were the two old, and then Michael, Kruger was the new, which was kind of cool.
Right, that's what I was just about to say when we got there, was just how perfectly timed that was. And I have some comments on those particular cigars too. But what were some of your favorite parts about the Wolf, Ben?
Was that, I'm trying to think now. So the face, the Drac, and the Frank, they only came in the dress boxes, right? They didn't come in a regular one, right?
Well, the face started coming with plain boxes.
That was the first one. Okay, I was thinking the Wolfman was the first one, the plain box.
Yeah,
because I don't have any dress. What I have in there is just a plain box, not a dress box. So, yeah, I always thought the Wolfman was pretty cool. I love the shaggy foot of that. That to me, it's like the face, like that cigar was like so dead on with like the Wolfman. It has the torpedo for like sharp teeth of the Wolfman, the shaggy foot for his hairy body. I just thought that was really cool. And then was one I really enjoyed. I love that blend of the Wolfman.
Yeah, even the dress box, and moving forward, the dress boxes will be a little bit more clean looking, but like the Frank was this year, the Redux. But the original Wolfman box was actually, if you looked at it, we kind of made it look like it was coated in fur in a sense, because we just roughed it up so much that there were splinters everywhere, to where it kind of had like a furry coat to it.
Yeah.
I
always thought that was a really cool looking box too. I tried to get a dress box. I would just never could get a hold of it. And luckily my shop in Biloxi, Mississippi, the cigar shop, got in some of the regular ones. And I snatched two immediately. Yeah. They were pulled out of the box. So I just grabbed two of them. Yeah. So that was my first like full box I got of the monsters. I was able to get like singles here and there, but never a full box. The Wolfman was the first one I got a true full box of. Nice. So it has a soft spot in my heart.
And the thing I like about the blend kind of morphs us into the next thing that you did with this reiteration or iteration of this series, Pete, was you released the babies, or the little monsters, right? The Frank Jr., the little Drac, the baby face, and the Wolfie. Mm-hmm. The Wolfie, that particular Vitola in that blend, I still have a few left as well, but that ages incredibly well, and it smokes fantastic to this day. I think the most recent one I smoked was probably about 6 months ago, and it was just fantastic. That's from 2012. I mean, that's almost 10 years old at this point. And
yeah, I mean, that was a very fun project. It was a cool project because of the artwork that we had. Originally, that artwork was going to be on the outside of the box, and I decided to put it on the inside of the box. And then, of course, the cards that were involved, which actually got me into trouble. And then when I started shipping all those boxes that didn't have cards in them, that's when people were like, I didn't get a card. Yeah, that was a long story. Thanks, Topps Trading.
Do you remember? I don't know if I'm sure you remember. But we was at Drew Estate and you came in late one night. And you brought us over to the factory, and I remember walking in the room and all the ladies were boxing them all up. I don't know if you remember, but I went by and I picked up a stack of those cards like this big. I took a picture. I think Dan Reeve took a picture of me holding these things. And I was like, oh, look, this is cool. And I set them back down. A garbage pail kid looking thing. It's kind of neat, because I collected them. I thought that was a really cool concept. It wasn't later on. I was like, people are freaking out trying to get these cards. Like, people want to pay like $100 a piece just to get the card. I'm like,
Yeah,
how
it's
much
just
money
silly.
was I holding at that time?
Yeah, we still have, you know, that they might be somewhere down lost in the factory, but yeah, those were we had that production was fairly large, but I think half of the boxes, you know, Jaime had already pulled out half the cards out of the boxes, so they just kind of never made it into production. Even though what's crazy about that is that I'm made an arrangement with Topps to kind of, you know, stop, because I didn't really understand what I did wrong until I looked at the similarities and said, oh shit, okay, yeah, it's not malicious, just I'll just stop and tell me what you need me to do. And they told me, like, you have to, you can't ship anything with the cards after April 15th. And I think it was like, I don't know, April 10th by the time we shipped every box. So technically every box could have had a card in it.
Yeah, I have 2 unopened boxes I bought like day one they were released. So, and I've never opened them. I didn't open them.
Well, you can actually, if you just kind of shake the box a little bit, you can hear if there's a card there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the card moves around and hits the edge of the box.
Ben's
So-
Ben's about to go grab it right now. Do that, test that theory here. So with the cards, and then it kind of with the baby series or the little
Mhm.
monster series, excuse me. I keep saying baby drac and stuff like that, but this was like where you talked about how in the beginning this was you kind of planned the series out and everything. Were you always planning to do iterations of it, like the little monsters, the pudgies, or did that come later at this point?
Yeah, that came later. It was like I was looking for ways to capture the audience that was already there, because people were like disappointed that they couldn't get that same style of blend outside of Halloween. And honestly, a lot of my friends were like, you should probably do, like, you know, a sampler set. And I'm like, I don't want to do a sampler set of the full size monster. That takes away from the actual box that comes out during Halloween. Like, I'll do like little monsters. And of course, that's, you know, we didn't do baby monsters because of, you know, that's just bad. But little monsters made sense. And then pudgy monsters were technically like teenage monsters, but I didn't want to call them teenage monsters. That would be really bad. So that's where they became pudgy. I think we were looking at chubby monsters at one time, but pudgy just made more sense. So
I inadvertently, when I was preparing some notes for the show, I called them the chubby monsters. So it's funny that you mentioned that. But
yeah, every time I hear the word chubby, it just makes me think you got a chubby in your pants type of thing. So it's kind of weird.
well, I mean, I'm sure there were more than enough guys in the audience that probably had that going on when you released them. So it's probably pretty apropos. So, but the next monster, which was the mummy. Now this was a really interesting, at least from at the time I remember thinking this, that, you know, I noticed the trend that each year had a different wrapper at this
Yeah.
point. And you know, this was a really unique wrapper that you all put on the mummy, which was the Criollo.
Yeah, sun-grown Criollo.
Sun-grown Criollo. What was that tobacco that you and Pepin had settled on? Like, you guys had like smoked and you really just liked it, and you liked the nuance, because we talked earlier about the nuance of the mummy, and you just liked what it brought to the blend. Or
I was actually already doing sun-grown Criollo with the black label.
okay.
And I thought that honestly, I thought that the black label blend was like a perfect marriage to what I wanted to do with the mummy, because the black label blend is pretty subtle. It does have some spice to it, but to put it in that long cigar made the big difference with that cigar. And honestly, we toned the wrapper down slightly, and by that time we actually had more access to sun-grown Criollo compared to the first iteration of the black label. So we knew we could do a bigger production run of it.
So with these with and speaking of the blend breakdown of it, so it's so far and pretty much continuing on with the series and everything, some wrappers have kind of, there's been a couple of repeats here and there, but for the most part, the wrappers have been pretty unique. But the binder and filler have always been, we know that obviously every Pepin cigar is that double binder, but it's undisclosed Nicaraguan binder and filler. Was that intentional by you, or was it at the time? Because when the series first started, we really didn't, as an industry, even the nerdiest of people, we really didn't nerd out as much on binder and filler like the way that we do today, where it's like, on the south slope of the the third crop of the the fourth day after this winter solstice, I harvested this. It's gotten that intense at some levels, not that obnoxious, but I mean, was that the reason behind it, or you just always wanted to have that little bit of a mystery from the very beginning, and it just kind of continued?
Yeah, I was like, I've always been pretty open about what the wrappers are. I just wanted to keep the blends kind of a secret for the monsters, that mystery, of course. But everybody knows that I traditionally only work with, Nicaraguan tobacco. Nowadays, it's all tobacco grown by the family. And outside of that, it's usually, a wrapper from, Connecticut or Ecuador or San Andreas, from the Tarrant family. Obviously we have multiple suppliers out, well, 2 suppliers out of Ecuador with Oliva Tobacco and ASP. But it was, I think people know that I don't really venture out and go to Brazil or the Dominican Republic or any of these, even Honduras, to find different tobaccos to use, because I'm very key on what I want as far as I want it to taste like a certain style of cigar for me first and foremost, and then that's my comfort zone, so I stick with that comfort zone. But double binders, the only times we've ever really played with binders outside of all Nicaraguan usually would be a broadleaf binder as one of the binders, or San Andreas binder as one of the binders. But normally it's traditionally a Criollo and a Corojo binder.
So Pete, when you say comfort zone, do you mean blending comfort zone or
palate comfort zone for me?
Flavor. Okay, because I was just going to ask you, like you just, for your own palate, you're just not a fan of those other tobaccos like Brazil, you mentioned Brazil and Dominican specifically. So
I usually try to stay away from. I'm not a big fan of certain Dominican tobaccos. I won't even say the names because it might offend someone, but there are some, Dominican tobaccos I just choose to stay away from completely. I like the flavor of Arapiaca, but Brazilian tobaccos. But honestly, if I'm going to use a wrapper that kind of looks like that, I'm going to lean towards San Andreas or broadleaf for that style. Comfort zone more for my palate, because I like the flavor to be very, very straightforward, traditional as far as what I'm looking for, clean at least. And sometimes when you start putting in other tobaccos into the mix, like a good example, San Andreas is one of the binders. You got to be really careful about what you're putting in the blend to make sure that the San Andreas doesn't take over the whole blend. And that was a big thing for the Negociant cigar that we do. It's Connecticut wrapper, and one of the binders is San Andreas. The other one's Nicaraguan, the filler's Nicaraguan. But as soon as I did a smaller version of that Negociant, I knew that I had to lower the priming on that binder, because the binder in the same proportions was actually overpowering, or same priming was actually overpowering the whole blend. And you can taste that true San Andreas, chalkiness that I like to kind of dumb down. I usually want that chalkiness to go away, so I usually tend to lean towards a medium plus blend to use San Andreas on, except for in this case, it was used as a binder, which, it was meant to be like a added earthy flavor, but I didn't want it to overpower the cigar.
Ben, I don't know if you agree with Pete on this too. I would, with what you're saying about Arapiaca. There are cigars that made with Arapiaca wrapper or using that tobacco in the blend that I really like. I like the flavor of it. But I think Pete's right about that. I think it does tend to overwhelm. It does tend to dominate the blend. Typically, you can really taste it over it. What do you
That's
think?
another thing with that's another thing real quick with like Costa Rican tobacco. We've played with Costa Rican tobacco here and there, and I've always found that it's super salty, and I try to lean away from it because it, it's good to have a little bit of salt in your cigar so you actually kind of wet your palate a little bit, but when your palate just goes freaking haywire because there's too much salty character to it, I think it's a turnoff. Sorry, Ben.
No, I was thinking the same thing. The Arapiraca, I like it when it's on a more full bodied cigar because it seems to like kind of level it out a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I tend to agree. But to that point, Kurt Kendall 724 uses a lot of that, and I really like those blends. And he doesn't really have a real punch in the mouth kind of fuller blend, but he seems to do it really well. And I've always been a fan of his cigars too. So
yeah, and he could be picking out certain primings that work really well on those medium blends that he's doing. Again, it's really about personal preference, and honestly, it's also about knowing that I can get that tobacco over and over again, and not worry about sourcing things that are hard to get. I never want to get into that issue.
How do you choose, like, for this, like this monster blend, we're going to use this wrapper? I mean, is it something you have on hand or what?
No. Usually it has to do with like what expression do I want the monster to be? Like Frankenstein made sense to do broadleaf for me. I don't know why, because it was ugly. And this was before I was really playing with San Andreas, so I still probably would have picked broadleaf for Frank no matter what. I picked San Andreas for Leatherface or the face because of its look. And
same concept, right?
It was also a geographical thing too, because like you think of Leatherface, you think of Texas, obviously,
Texas,
right?
Yeah.
And Texas is close to Mexico, so I'm like, okay, yeah, I gotta use Mexican wrapper. Stuff like that. It's stupid, dumb shit that I think of, and it's really just some stupid meaning why I did it. Same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street. With the Kruger, I used San Andreas on that because my office on Sunset that I used to have was around the corner from the actual Nightmare on Elm Street house. So I was like, okay, I got to use San Andreas for that too. Again, dumb shit.
No, I thought it was pretty fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always wondered, like Barry mentioned, like some of them you've reused a couple of times, but I always wonder why did he choose that? Like there was some kind of like weird story or mystery, like, oh, this has got to be this one or whatever.
Well, I think history is still, and Pete, you can feel free to disagree with me about your own production, but you've always come across to me as a very intentional brand owner. Everything from the blend to the concept to everything. There's the very detail oriented person, and so you've always been very intentional that way. I mean, would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll give you a good example. Like so you asked about whether or not something was available, right? If maybe the wrapper was available, so we used it. And in the case of the Bride, I always knew I wanted to use broadleaf because it's directly connected to Frankenstein, and Frank, of course, was broadleaf. But I didn't want it to look like the Frank because the Bride's supposed to be a little bit more subtle. And on like blends like La Dueña, we use like a mid prime in broadleaf, so it's more of a rosado color. And I was like, this is like a perfect wrapper for the Bride. And at the time, that's what we had available because it was right in the middle of a broadleaf crunch. And I knew I couldn't get dark broadleaf Maduro. And luckily I didn't want it for the Bride anyway. So I knew I had a good access to a lot of lower prime and broadleaf that looked more like a rosado shade.
So Ben,
I've always been ahead of the. I've always been ahead of the issues that might be coming in the factory because I'm I'm involved a lot more than most people, and I see potential problems down the road, and I kind of shift gears, kind of like going into turn one, you know.
Full circle back to F1.
All soft tires.
Yeah. Today was the tire day. If no one watched it but Ben and I, today was the day to watch for tires. So we won't say anything else.
Yeah.
So Ben, if it's all right with you, I want to take this next one, then we'll do the break and then wrap up the series here. So the reason I wanted to take this one in particular, Pete, is the next one, which is the 2 old and then 1 new. So you went Frank, Drac, and then the face, and then Wolf, Mummy, and then now Jason Voorhees comes in. So the Jason comes in, the JV13, which is my favorite monster. I love this blend. I love it in every single iteration that you've done of it. I would love to see what a little monster looks like in that. And I loved it in the budgie. I loved it in the skinny, and I loved it in its original. My only regret is I wasn't able to obtain a dress box of it, but it is my favorite. Now, this blend in particular also has a small place in my heart, because the place at which I worked retail all these years at Michael's Tobacco of Euless was a member of the Unlucky 13. So you mentioned at the very top how the Frank actually went out to a select group of retailers. When did the Unlucky 13 become a thing, and why did you I know you're a numbers person, so I know why you picked the number, but why did you decide to do it this way, the Unlucky 13?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the first year we did it that way. It was always we decided we were only going to sell it to 13 retailers, right? And after the first year, we realized that, like, it's really an unlucky 13. Right. Because the first year people got product, and not a lot of people cared about the cigar in the sense of like, oh, well, there's something new out there from Tatuaje, but we don't quite get it. The next year it kind of built. I think it was really by the time we got to the face is where it was like, okay, this is truly unlucky. Because everybody's complaining about, they couldn't get it from the 13 retailers that were picked the year before. And then on top of it, I always warn the retailers, like, hey, you're going to get a lot of phone calls, and just be prepared for it. And I'll tell you that it truly became the Unlucky 13 when we started to notice that there were actually retailers that like closed up shop like a year or 2 years after they had the Monster series. I'm like, okay, maybe this is unlucky. So I think we had a track record that by the time we were on our 10th year, there were 10 retailers that went out of business.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, no, totally unfortunate. And I hope it wasn't my doing, but it was just,
I doubt that.
It was just a weird thing.
Weird coincidence.
It was just a weird thing. So yeah, that's why I became the Unlucky 13.
Well, I can attest to this because I was there. I was present at Michael's when the shipment landed, like literally. And like there were people following the delivery guy as he was walking in the door, like and like non-employees following this guy. Like it was at that point, it was unlike anything I'd ever seen in this business. It was unbelievable. I mean, I was excited. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I've been a fan of the series since nearly the beginning. So, I mean, but I mean, it was literally unlike anything I had ever seen. And so I truly felt, understood, and appreciated the Unlucky 13 moniker, just because I was like, wow, this is it. And you're right. The phone just did not stop. In fact, we had a guy literally fly in. I can get corrected by Tracy on this, the general manager of Michael's at the time. He took a phone call from a guy in, I believe it was Dubai, who wanted the JV13, and he's like, we're not shipping international, dude. I don't even think we can. Like no. He's like, we're gonna take care of the people who walk in the door first. That was always Tracy's thing. There's always been Tracy's thing. It's always been Mike's thing. Take care of the people that are there, right? Yeah. And first, and he's like, so if I walk in the door, I can get one. He's like, absolutely. He's like, okay, I'll be there tomorrow. And we didn't believe him. And that, sure enough, the guy must have dropped everything, gotten on a plane, because he literally walked in the door the very next day, which I didn't think was possible. What I didn't think was possible coming from Dubai. But
yeah, it's possible. It's you gain time, I think, coming back from Dubai. But wow, that's pretty. I never heard that story. But I will tell you, to go back to Rapper, of course, the reason why I chose Broadley for that Rapper is because Camp Crystal Lake was supposedly in Maine, and Maine was close to Massachusetts and Connecticut River Valley, and it was all that thing. It was like, it's got to be Broadley for Michael. I mean, for Jason.
I absolutely love that blend. It's fantastic. It's by far and away my favorite. We'll get to the cigar. We'll get to the monster that I've smoked the most of here in just a little bit. But Ben, before we take that break, any thoughts on the Jason?
No, it was one that I thoroughly enjoyed as too. We talked about it last night. I think we both said it was definitely your favorite, and I was pretty sure thinking we excluded the Frank and the Drag. That it was out of what was left. The Jason was one of my favorites as well. Yeah. It was a really good cigar.
Well, this is the time in the show where we like to break it up and have a little bit of fun. So we've got a couple of fun segments that we like to do here, and so we always start.
We're not going to read Sean Connery quotes.
No, we're not doing Sean Connery on this one. This one's a little easier. Last time you did this segment, Pete, we had a little fun with your love of wine, but this time we're going a little bit more back to the basics. And this is our one must go segment, which is of course always brought to you by United Cigar. Smoke one today and start living United. Distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabay and Byron lines. Again, smoke one today and start living United. Now, Pete, you've done this a couple of times now. You know the rules. We give you three things, and you've got to pick one to kick to the curb. Now, these are three things that are near and dear to your heart. Ben and I came up with this last night, and I agreed with it. And I think we are also him and I are on the same page that we think that we know which one is going to the curb. But I'm interested to get your take, and we're going to participate as well because we're fans of all three things as well. Clearly, we're fans of at least one of these things. So here we go. So the first of the three things, pretty basic: cigars. The second one is something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. In particular, I know Ben is a big fan of this, and obviously you as well. You've made some of it, and that's wine. And the third one is what you're probably most famous for prior to cigars, which is music. So music, wine, and cigars. One's got to go. Obviously, this isn't for real. I see the guitar hanging in the back there, in the next room over. So these are three very important things to your life. But if you had to give up one, what would it be?
Like put a gun to my head type of give it up?
Yeah, because it's not going to happen otherwise. It wouldn't even happen probably then.
I would say music only because I don't participate in music anymore. I do play at home by myself. I've become an introvert as I get older. So to put me on stage, I'd probably not have a good time with it. So I would say music because I still like enjoying wine, and I still want to enjoy cigars. So I guess, yeah, for playing music, I have to be able to listen to music. That's all I care about.
So,
or is that off the grid too? I can't have that.
No. This is up to interpretation, Pete. So, right. and that was the choice that I thought you were going to pick, just because it had been, it's not that music, like you said, I know you still listen to quite a bit of it and a lot of different, very eclectic taste. But I with that being so far in the past,
if I can give you another alternative answer to that, if you said making before all of them, I would say making wine because I have enough of it already, so I don't need to make any more. But I still love to create music, and I still love to create cigars. So
awesome, Ben. What about you? I know you love wine. I know you like music as well. Which one's got to go? Cigars.
Well, he kind of put. I mean, So people will twist on it. We're talking about playing. So I've played guitar for years, and I haven't played recently for quite a while. Mainly because my middle son got really heavily involved, and I kind of gave him my guitars, and then what I kept was my Gibson SG. That's the only one I still have, and because I haven't done that in a while, I would probably give up music as well. I mean, because man, I love my wine and my cigars, and they go so well together. I started thinking about maybe I should do wine because I do love Scotch and bourbon a lot, so I'd have that.
Yeah, so you have backup.
Yeah, I have a backup.
I thought about the same thing. I was thinking the same thing because I'm like, yeah, shit, man, I can keep music and just get rid of wine. I'm drinking bourbon right now, so who gives a fuck, right? I got a backwards question for you, Ben. Then, since you're doing you got to give up one. Cigars, the Braves, or cologne?
Ooh,
what the fuck, man?
That's a tough one for you.
That is tough. I would never give my Braves up, ever. It would be fragrances.
Yeah, because and that's a tough one for you because you're like what we would call a colognophile.
Yeah. It's ridiculous the amount that I've been collecting. Yeah.
The only thing he posts about other than cigars is the cologne. I'll see him. It's fantastic. This one's pretty easy for me. I've always said that I'm not the biggest or the greatest music consumer. I really do have appreciation for music. I love listening to it. I have an eclectic taste as well. I haven't played music since bass clarinet in 7th grade. Never picked up. I wanted to pick up a guitar. I just never had it. My brother's the guitarist in the family. But music it's an easy one for me. It's music. But like Ben, I thought about, I was like, wine could go. I could do that because I could, I have bourbon and Scotch and I love spirits too. So it's a pretty easy take for me. But yeah, so that was our One Must Go segment, brought to you by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living united. Now, this next segment this is the second time that we've done this particular feature because Pete's been a guest now twice since we started doing it. And it's something that we did a fantastic job of last time, Pete. I was really excited about how much awareness we raised and how much money we raised for a cause that's really near and dear to your heart, which of course is Gulfstream Guardian Rottweiler, Gulfstream Guardian Angels Rottweiler Rescue, Yeah. And just a wonderful organization that's near and dear to your heart. For those who might be living in Iraq, don't know how much you love your four-legged kids. Why don't you talk a little bit about the organization and why it's the organization you chose to bring the second time to ELOSOFUMARTAKES?
Yeah, Gulfstream Guardian Angels is a local Rottweiler rescue down here in Miami, and I got hooked up with them when I did a Bovida podcast thing that they did. And it was one of those things where Bovida decided to match donations for anybody who donated to the organization. And from there, I was actually already into contributing to that organization. So usually by the time I get off of your HERF tonight or your podcast tonight, I'll end up probably sending them a donation via PayPal. But it's a small organization. They have limited resources, and I know they do good things for a breed that I really enjoy and love. So if you love Rottweilers or if you love dogs, that's a great small charitable-based organization that helps out our four-legged friends. So that's all I got for you.
Yeah, that's always cool too. I mean, I'm a big dog lover. I mean, for my birthday every year, I do a Facebook one for the old friends dog rescue. Almost every time, you're my top donor. So I love dogs. I would have 50 of them if I had enough room for it. But so any kind of dog charity or rescue efforts or anything like that is always got a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, I would have 50 of them if I hired someone to pick up all the shit.
Well, that's why I said the room.
Even at 2, it's tough.
Oh, I got 3. Believe me, I know. It's everywhere.
Yeah, we put off getting another one. I'm a huge dog lover as well as both y'all know. I lost mine a little over a year ago, and that was um, one of the toughest things that's ever happened in my life. It was just really, it still hurts to this day. It's one of those things, but we've put off getting another one. I have one right now, but we'll be getting another one soon. We recently bought a house, and so we'll be moving here shortly, and we'll have more room. So I don't know about 50, but we'll be getting more than one more. So
Yeah,
excited to have
we
some more
only have
dogs.
the one. Like we only have the one right now, Luna. You know, you knew about Loki who passed from a genetic disorder, but you know, my wife's always like, "Let's get Luna a friend." I'm like, "We're always home right now. Like this is she's so used to us as being her best friend that I would hate to introduce another dog in her life because I don't want to take anything away from her. So I'm always very cautious. I actually, you know, obviously Loki's situation was very hard for us, and I wish he was still around because he would have been the perfect, you know, best friend for her. I would be afraid that maybe the house would have gotten torn apart. She's very good, but you know, Loki had that name that he could have easily, you know, bit holes in the wall and shit. So
I didn't realize you had a dog named Luna. We have a dog named Luna as well.
yeah, Luna's our baby girl. She sleeps with us, like, and let me know she takes up the whole bed.
Well, mine does it. I don't know if you can see that, but that's mine is little. It's a little
Oh
dog,
yeah, it's
little
a
rat
miniature
terrier.
pincher. Oh, rat
No,
terrier.
it's a
Okay.
rat terrier. Yeah. I wasn't expecting to get it. All my dogs are rescues. And my son, my little 12-year-old, he was younger. He went to go stay with my wife's mom, and she had a dog that had litter of puppies. And I didn't know this when he went to go stay the weekend. Of course, he was texting his mom the whole weekend. "Hey, mommy, can I take this puppy home?" This one puppy ran right up to me. He would stay with me the whole time. And so when we went to go pick him up, they had already decided that this dog was coming home with us. So we got
Isn't that
another
how
one.
it always is?
Yeah. And then this August, we got another one. It's an Australian cattle dog. So
Oh
my
yeah.
son, and he is full of energy. You
Yes,
know,
they are.
he runs into everything, and he's knocked over my light several times. He's an awesome dog. His name is Wade Wilson.
Oh, that's a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After Deadpool, he was my son and
Yeah.
daughter-in-law's dog. She's in the Navy. He got out of the Marine Corps, but she's in the Navy still. And they had to go to San Diego to the Navy base there. They can't have a dog, can't have animals. So we met him halfway between. He lived in Lemoore, California at the time. Met him at Albuquerque to pick the dog up in August, and now I have 3 dogs now.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a little shy of getting another one. It's always like we look at a lot of rescues that the Gulfstream puts up. It's just that we're not. A couple of them we thought it might be a good idea, and then there's always that question whether or not they do well with other animals, and they tell you straight up in their bios that whether or not they do, and it's always come up where they don't. So yeah. Again, it's a lot of work, man, to have 2 big dogs. You got to be around. I mean, luckily over the last year and a half, we've been around a lot, but you know, when we start traveling again, it's tough to leave 2 dogs in the house with the lady that takes care of the house. So
Yeah, that's why I told my wife we need to buy just a big ranch just outside of Dallas. We'll have plenty of room. We can get more then.
well, you know, it's funny though, because of travel, and because Yanni and I travel pretty much everywhere together, especially when it comes to our work. If we're going to Nicaragua, she goes to Nicaragua with me. You know, like if we're going to a big smoke, she's going to a big smoke with me because she has her own business, obviously. And I always start thinking of like, if we had 2, it would almost, I'd be playing through my head of like, you know, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead, you know, that old thing, because we have a lady that takes care of the kids while we're gone. And I would just like playing that through my head of like, oh shit, 2 giant dogs are going to kill this lady. One's bad enough, but to put 2,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, it's just lucky. Like I work from home, so I'm a virtual employee, so I'm always here. So if my wife travels the most, she travels for her work sometimes, but mostly for the Navy. So
Yeah.
That's so it works out. Usually, when one of us goes, the other one's got to be at home. How it works out well. So I understand it because sometimes, like we were talking about going somewhere for Thanksgiving, but we couldn't find where to take 3 dogs to board them. So that's a problem. So we're deciding not to do it.
Also
even
expensive.
when we leave home now, it's always like, we know we have someone good that stays here to take care of the house and the kids while we're gone, so we can feel comfortable. But like to leave Luna behind, it's like tough. And we're traveling more and more now. Like I'm going to LA every week or every month to make sure that the office is, in good shape, and to help with packing boxes and stuff like that. And then if we go to Nicaragua or the Dominican Republic or Las Vegas or wherever for the trade show, it becomes too much when you have 2 of them around. And shit, man, I'm going to Italy for my birthday in a couple weeks, and that's another thing. Like couldn't even think about having another dog right now because hey, throw this on her lap while we just take off for Italy.
So you might have mentioned this, Pete, I might have missed it, but have all of your dogs been rescues over the years?
Yeah, most of them. They all come from some type of rescue form, in the sense of like it could have been like my first boy Rottweiler Hunter. I got him through an ad in like the Penny Saver in Los Angeles. It was kind of like Craigslist back then, the Penny Saver, and he needed a home, and I wanted a dog. So rescue-ish, but most of them, came from pounds otherwise. Or I picked up a girl puppy Rottweiler from a guy who used to buy Cuban cigars from one day. So
Yeah,
he had a litter of puppies, and I just took one.
That's my problem. Whenever like I can't go to a pound. Like I can never like all of our rescues. I'll be like so my 2 dogs I had before these 2, people just dropped them off at my house, like in the neighborhood, and I took them in. I can't go to a pound or because it just breaks my damn heart. Like I want to take them all home,
right?
But or like when like PetSmart or Petco does, they have the ASPCA come in, or the Humane Society. They got all the dog cages up for adoption. I get my card. I go home. I can't even go in the store. I can't do it. I felt bad. I remember I was in PetSmart, or not. It was Petco. They used to have the dog kennels in there. Had little puppies.
Right. Yeah.
And one day I saw this lady. She was bringing back a Yorkie, a little puppy Yorkie, because he made them. Dude, it took everything in my being not to take the dog, cuss her out, just bring it home with me. I just, it was just like, what are you? Oh, you got a puppy. It's going to crap on the floor.
Yeah.
Until you train it. And you
walk. How
it.
do you return a dog? That's tough.
That just killed me. Absolutely killed me. But I couldn't do it. That's why I can't go to the store when I see either of those dogs. So I'm glad they don't do that anymore. Like they don't do them.
There's a lot of stores around Miami that have, their puppy mill stores. I can't judge them. I would never buy a dog from one of those places. It's just weird for me that it even exists anymore, but whatever.
Luckily the old fashioned pet store where they actually have those dogs and cats and other animals are kind of going by the wayside a little bit. Which is good. There's too many dogs out there, in particular, specifically since we're talking about them, that need homes, and it's always something that I'll always do. I'll always get rescue. But what a great organization. We've already had a couple people in the chat, Pete, who have already donated. So
awesome,
fantastic
Thank you
there. So, and later tonight, as always, I'll be making a donation to Gulfstream Guardian Angels Rottweiler Rescue in your honor. So thank you so much for bringing that to us, I guess.
As will I.
Wonderful.
I'm going to return the favor from you for my birthday series.
Well, Well, and to move on to continue the series discussion of the monsters and everything, we move into the next two, which is the two old, as you were kind of saying how you did two old, one new, two old, one new throughout the series, Pete. And like you said earlier, these next two kind of fell perfectly in the order, which is the Jackal and the Hyde, which I to follow the Jason was a perfect accompaniment to me, because it out of all the stories of all these monsters, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is my favorite book of all of these. So I was really excited to see what you did with that, and you did a fantastic job. Now the two boxes fit together. You did a lighter series as well, and you've done other lighters as well with some of the other ones, but this one was really special. Did you always surely you always kind of, again, with that's going back to your intentions, was it always designed to be this pair, and you kind of had this in your head as far as putting them together and everything?
Yeah, I mean, some could debate whether or not Dr. Jekyll is the monster, but I guess he could be considered one because he created a monster. Yeah, they were always in the lineup from the get-go. That was one of those things that I was like, okay, that has to be it, even though, one's kind of more of a monster than the other. But I wanted to kind of break down the blending too, because I was going on a heavy streak for a while. I wanted to make sure that the nuances came back, and that's where Jekyll. I started using that Sancti Spiritus wrapper with Atelier, and it kind of made sense to utilize that same wrapper because I knew we had a ton of it, but I knew it was a good subtle way to make a great cigar, and then have Hyde be something a little bit more mischievous with Sumatra, obviously.
What I liked about the Jekyll and you using the Sanctus Spiritus, and again, I don't know if this was intentional by you, but I liked it because Jekyll is the most unique of all these characters that you did, because like you just said, one could argue that he's not, but one that he is. And I really like that you used it as a pair, and I like that you used that wrapper in particular. I'm a fan of the tobacco, as you are, because I'm a big fan of what you do with L'Atelier. But that was a really unique cigar that I enjoyed because of the wrapper usage and everything. A
lot of people don't know that the boxes were actually made at the same time, even though they were spread out a year apart. The matching boxes were actually printed at the same time. So we obviously did plain boxes those years, but the dress boxes, I told them, I said, I need you to make sure that the silk screening goes on in one shot. That way, when people put them up together, they pair up nicely. So yeah, those boxes, that was kind of nice because those second year boxes sat for over a year before they got packed. So I knew I didn't have any issue with paint.
that would probably would have sucked if you get to that point and realize you don't have something simple like the paint or something like that. Now I can't remember, and I'm gonna have to open up my box just to recall. Was it the Jekyll that had the green, or was it the white, or in the green?
No, yeah, the Jekyll's the white with the green, or creamish with a green.
And then
then Hyde was green with cream.
So, any of your experiences with these two cigars, or the Jekyll specifically, Ben, that you recall?
What was that again?
Any like any memories from it specifically, either one or the Jekyll specifically, since we're on it?
No, I don't. That one I couldn't get a hold of a lot of those. So that was probably, out of the ones we've got here, that's the ones I was kind of smoked the least, only because I didn't get my hands on a lot of those. I remember I enjoyed them both a lot, and if I remember right, I liked the Jekyll the most, if I remember right, out of those two. I just remember when these came out, I was kind of excited as well, because I'm a fan of the book as well. We talked about this a little bit last night on last night's show on the Smoking Syndicate, where I always found that book as it was a complex book, right? Had a lot of deeper meanings in there with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, about how it's like kind of a expose about the human character, right? Like our base instincts to where, or how we're more, elevated now, with free takers and stuff like that. We still have this base instinct of good, all this good and evil, how the both characters are about good and evil. I always found that book was really deep in meaning and really, really cool. So I was really excited when I saw you bring these out too, because like I said, I found that book really, really interesting. Not from just like the monster horror aspect of it, but just how it, but basically was like a snapshot of basically human society, how it is with good, with the whether how you want to act, right? You want to people can go either the dark evil way or go the more enlightened civilized society we are now, good and proper. I thought it was a pretty cool book, so I was excited to see those two cigars come out when they did.
So with the hide the following year, and it kind of completing this 1-2 punch that you did in the middle of the series, Pete, what at this point, and actually a couple years prior, you had released the Pudgies that we had kind of mentioned earlier, along with the JV13 and everything. So did, again, with continuing this theme with like intention and everything like that, do you tried the Jekyll and Hyde in the Pudgy size at all? And has it worked? Will we see the Pudgies again with some of these ones that were not part of that series?
Yeah, I don't know yet, because like the closest I came to smoking the Jekyll and Hyde and a lot of these in a Pudgy size was really this Monster Mash sampler, because it's the ring gauge of the Pudgies, but it's actually a little longer. So those are the closest that I've actually tried that would mimic the Pudgies in a sense. Obviously, it will be a little shorter. So yeah, I haven't tried them in the true Pudgy size if I decided to do one.
So we talked about this last night, Ben, about the hide specifically, and Pete, I've mentioned this before, and last night I was like not intentionally trying to backpedal on it or anything like that, but you remember the last time you were on my show, we talked about the discussion I had with a fan of yours about how at the time you were coming out with this you were doing the Redux with the NHC release with and then the Sumatra and everything, and how my general comment was, oh, I love when Pete works with Sumatra, and this guy just reams me. He's like, no, it's fucking broadleaf. He's blah blah blah. It's he's the best of broadleaf. I'm like, Jesus, man, I didn't say I didn't like his broadleaf. Like I like both. Like what's wrong with I can like both. But it's interesting that the hide out of all the series, and when you think about ranking cigars and stuff, one's got to be at the bottom, and the hide was it for me. And I don't know what it was in particular. And Ben and I were talking about this last night. Like we've smoked bad cigars. I know you've smoked bad cigars in your life. It wasn't a bad cigar. And again, I'm not saying this just because you're on the show. It just, for whatever reason, there's something about the blend that just didn't hit my palate as well as the rest of them that I've had over the years. And what was like, so not necessarily the hide specifically, but overall over the years and everything, what have you heard? What is the feedback you've gotten from people? Have you heard like something consistent about what was their favorite, what was their least favorite? What have you kind of heard over the years as far as like, because I'm sure people are just eager to tell you all the time, like, oh, that's my favorite, that's the best, or that's the least best, or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, every year there's criticism about the blend. When obviously Frank being the first one, everybody was like, oh, if they got it, they absolutely loved it. Drac, people were like, well, it's a little mild for me. So that was the criticism on Drac, which, outside the paint issue, it was too mild for them. The face, someone actually said that it should have punched them in the face more for being called the face. The Mummy, fast forward, Wolfman, everybody seemed to like the Wolfman. I didn't really have much criticism with the Wolfman. I got criticism with the Mummy because they thought it was too long. And it ended up, some people actually said it was kind of boring because it didn't have enough going on throughout the whole cigar. And it was a nuanced blend. So
I was going to say it was really nuanced.
yeah, it wasn't supposed to be this big banger. It was supposed to be very subtle. And then some people actually complained that the wrapper color was too light, which it's not, the monster itself called for a light wrapper, in my opinion. Jason, everybody seemed to like the Jason. I think maybe a couple people said it was too big, which, okay.
Too much of a good thing, I guess. I love it.
Jekyll and Hyde, I think Jekyll and Hyde probably got the most criticism because they weren't sure like where they sat in the lineup of the monsters, aside from the names, but as far as the blends go. Kruger, everybody seemed to like Kruger. And every year it's like I always say like, oh, this might be my best monster yet. And Kruger, I really was, really happy about because it almost seemed like it was a good redemption to Jekyll and Hyde since I got more criticism about Jekyll and Hyde. I think if people smoke Jekyll and Hydes now, they'll find those nuances that they needed to express to begin with. Michael, that was another one. Like, oh, it's too mild. I'm like, no, it's not. Like on paper, that's a strong cigar. You just think it's mild because of the balance of it. And I tell people, I go, you think it's mild? Smoke it for breakfast. Light it up on an empty stomach. And then they kind of understand it from there. As soon as I skipped the Bride, of course, people got pissed because I skipped all the way to 13. And that was another one that we got criticism on because they thought it was too light. And I go, it's supposed to be a lighter version of Frank for me. And then, of course, Chuck and Tiff, people don't like Tiff as much as Chuck because they don't like Connecticut wrapper, but it made sense for both of those.
No, I remember you posting too about that, and I took you up on it with it because you were saying, hey, I'm seeing a lot of people post. I'm grateful for it. Like everyone's got their two Chucks and a Tiff. Man, you should go out and get 2 Tiffs and a Chuck because you're really obviously a fan of that. I took you up on it. I thought the not to skip too ahead, but I enjoyed the Tiff in the pudgy size in particular. And so when you brought it back for a full release, I really enjoyed the blend and everything. But you mentioned about how everyone really liked the Kruger, and that's what I smoked last night. And Ben, did you finish up? I finished up my Michael. Did you finish up the Kruger?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, well, that's where I was going. I just finished it. So as I ask y'all, where should I go next? Which one should I smoke now? So I don't have the Michael. I smoked last night. I just finished the Kruger. So I got all the rest of them.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, you want to clean your palate?
Why not? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, because honestly, you go with Drac and it will kind of like, refresh your palate a little bit. Even Tiff will refresh your palate. I would move towards that direction. I think that as far as flavor goes, the Bride is smoking great. But I mean, it's really personal preference. I tend to, as the later I go in the evening, I tend to smoke something milder because I want to kind of refresh my palate for the next day.
Well, the Drac it is, which was one of my personal favorites. The Spike.
Yeah,
Drac. Yeah, this is the one this is, like I said, this is one I've always had a soft spot in my heart too. I love this one, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a shot on this size. So I smoked that up.
I wrapped mine up, but I went to the face of the Monster Mash.
Actually, those are pretty banging. But I didn't want to send Ben on. I didn't want to send Ben on 2 San Andreas cigars.
All right, this is smoking fantastic right now. Oh gosh, it's unbelievable.
I was leaning towards actually maybe grabbing the Bride, but I thought what I want to do is I want to smoke the Frank and the Bride together, like back to back. That's kind of what I was doing. Think of that.
Yeah, do the Frank first, and then hit up the Bride, and it'll kind of be crisper and cleaner.
So this was another thing I didn't notice until Ben just did it. So obviously the two, I guess you can call them bellicosos or torpedoes. They're not really torpedoes, but bellicosos are in the series are the Drac and the Kruger, which Ben just wrapped up, and now he's smoking onto the Drac. But the Drac is a spike. It's not to represent the fangs, or is it multi metaphorical?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Yeah. Same thing with the wolf. The wolf had to have a pointed head to it because it needed to be the fangs of the wolf, but also, it's kind of that silver bullet thing.
Oh wow, yeah, man, didn't even think about that. Oh.
And I would just thought, like with Kruger, it hits his claws.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, but going back to what you said, Bear, originally, the Kruger was absolutely fantastic. I think I like it more than I did the Michael last night. I really liked the Michael. There's a lot of subtle flavor in that Kruger. I picked up a lot of what you had last night, Bear, too. So that was fantastic. Like I mean, there's almost nothing left of that cigar. I mean, that's all I got left of. And I don't smoke cigars down that low either.
I like the Kruger because I think the San Andreas works really well on that heavier blend because it actually mutes all those chalky notes that you could get out of it normally. Yeah. When I did the original Kruger, the full size one, I was like, yeah, this might be the best one yet. And I was smoking a lot of them too. That was one of those cigars. Every time I would be in the factory, I was, burning through a lot of those cigars. So I would say at least a few boxes never made it to production.
So before we move on to the Michael, which I have some thoughts on the Michael, you mentioned boxes, and I know that you obviously smoke a lot of your own stuff here, Pete, but you also like to hold back some of these production pieces just because for memento's sake. So if I'm recalling correctly, you typically try to keep the first box.
1 through 13,
okay.
31, and 666.
Right. So
so I take out 15 for myself.
Okay. And then the 31st, the reason you do 31 is because of Halloween, right?
Yeah.
The 31st. And then 666 obviously being the theme behind these.
Of the beast.
Right. Have you cracked it? Are they all collection pieces for you? Have you cracked open any of these boxes or?
Oh no, yeah. A lot of them have gone to events that I've done. Like usually I'll start pulling out old inventory for big events and allow people to, grab stuff that normally wouldn't be out there on the streets. And one mainly is because it's a chance for someone to get a hold of a box at a normal price and not a crazy secondary price point. So yeah, I think one year we did actually we broke open, what was it, five dress boxes of 5 different monsters, and we did a pre-pack for Saints and Sinners, so we could only do, that's only 65 sets, right? We did 65 5-packs, but we priced it at all suggested retail, so people were getting Frankensteins, the original Frank, at $13 instead of paying. I've seen people paying $100 for them now. So,
oh wow,
yeah. And what we did with the empty boxes, we actually bombed people like, we call it an upgrade or whatever, but it was like the secret bomb where they would get the empty box inside their shipment. So the guys that got the empty Frank boxes is kind of cool for them.
And I can tell you, as somebody that's been at Saints and Sinners since year 2, because I missed the first year because it was in Nicaragua when y'all opened it up.
Yeah.
Those sell so fast. Like I'm literally refreshing the page. They go gone.
Yeah, we have a better website now than we did in the past, so it's easier. But the things, I would say that the site's not crashing anymore. That's good. It's just they do sell out quick though. We had a lot of issues with the site crashing like multiple times, and it was because for a while we had like a timer on the shopping cart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it kept on looping. So like it just kept on. You know, there'd be 500 guys trying to get it, but it would look like it was 5,000 people trying to get it.
Oh,
So we were in. I remember being in Kentucky picking out some barrels of Eagle Rare and Blanton's, and we decided to launch Saints and Sinners membership in the Kroger's in Kentucky, you know, somewhere off the Bourbon Trail. And I remember getting to the airport and just telling the guys, just shut it down, and we'll turn off whatever we need to turn off to make it right. And we got it fixed probably 24 hours later. So what a pain in the ass though. Kroger Wi-Fi.
You know what's crazy is, do you have every single box from my Saints and Sinners from day one to now unopened?
Oh shit.
Yeah, every single one of them.
Well, I tell you, I just got my box from this year. I just got it 2 days ago.
Yeah,
So,
I got mine. I got mine in there too. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't on purpose. Like I didn't plan this. It just kind of happened, kind of organically, because I had other friends that were in it too, and they would open their boxes up, and we would smoke stuff out of theirs. That would never even get to mine. About the fifth box, I'm like, well, shit, I'm not opening none of these, am I? So, you know, of course, you know, during Christmas, y'all would release like the individual packs again with one cigar or something in there, and I would buy those, and I would end up smoking some of those anyway. So I've had the cigars, but not open.
What we do now is we overbuild the boxes for the club kits, and what we do is we break them up so people can buy more 5-packs later on for like peatmas and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like this year, I think we made a total of 1,800. Was it 1,800 boxes? And we had 1,656 members. So we have enough 5-packs to, you know, get out to, what's that end up being, about 400 plus, you know, 5-packs that we can sell to the members. That way, some people will grab the 5-pack so they don't have to open up their box.
That's kind of what I've been doing lately, I'll be honest. Like, because now that I've moved so much, I'm not with my original gang, so I'm not around that anymore. So I just wait for Christmas and buy the peatmas packs and all that stuff.
Yeah,
smoke that stuff up.
Yeah, we've had a lot of cool peatmas packs over the years, and that's where, you know, breaking open the 5 boxes of the 5 dress boxes. I'll tell you, most of my dress boxes now, like my old collectible dress boxes that I have in my stash, usually make their way up north to Maine to my mom and dad's shop, because they don't ship to people. So people literally have to drive up there and buy stuff directly from the shop. And it's always a treat for someone to walk in and see a bunch of dress boxes. But I got to teach my parents not to sell everyone to one guy.
Or in case of that customer of mine, someone might fly in from Dubai into your parents' shop.
Yeah, we've had people like call them and say, they're like, we don't ship. People are asking for inventory. Like, can you give me a list of what you have in stock? And my mom's like, no. So it's one of those things where people have literally like sent people, a lot of mules. A lot of guys go up there and like, I got money from like 5 guys, so I'm picking up a bunch of shit.
How do you decide what you want to put in those packs? Like, you know, speaking, you know, using the cutter now.
Is that the new one?
No, it's not. It's actually the first one.
Shit, it's not going to work, right?
No, not really. The blades are chipped, but it's like a serrated cigar cutter right now.
Yeah,
it still works. It works though, you know.
Well, you know, Lotus, you know, I think Lotus is a great company. They make great products. The big problem that they had, you know, middle of pandemic, everything was delayed, and the factory, not Lotus themselves, but the factory they used to make those cutters, decided to take a shortcut, and they didn't like coat the blades with like some type of hardening thing that makes them so they won't chip. And we didn't notice this until people started sending us messages like, this cutter's a piece of crap. We're like, oh fuck. So I think we're finally close to being 100% resolved on that. But what a nightmare that was. Not the easiest thing to navigate. And I think we lost a few members because of it. And then
Jesus,
this
it's not
year,
that big of a deal. I mean, what the hell? I mean, I
This
got my
year-
new cutter, but I just haven't used it. I don't. This one still works. I mean, it's got a little bit of chips, but it still works fine. So I haven't even opened the new one at all.
this year, the biggest complaint was people. We did a vote, and not everybody. You open an email and you just don't pay attention to it. And we sent out emails to everybody, and a lot of shit goes to people's spam, and they don't see it. But the majority of the vote ended up being cigars, more cigars over accessories.
Right.
And some people were complaining that they didn't feel like they got enough in the pack, but that extra bundle of cigars that was in there made up for more than what the accessories were completely.
Yeah.
But then there was the people that found out that we were doing the extra bundle, and they were literally hitting me up like a week before the shipping and going, "Hey, can I still join?" Like, luckily we had built enough to where we could actually, let a few more people in, but it was like the last minute scramble for some guys.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows I'm a swag whore. I love it. I love it, obviously. But anyway, I voted for the more cigars because I would rather honestly have extra cigars, especially from one of my favorite brands. So I would, I voted for that. I'd rather have that stuff.
Well, I wanted to do the extra cigars this year, and I was to the point where even if it comes out dead even, I'm going to go with cigars because I think it's the better option for us, mainly because of how broken the supply chain is. We were talking with some accessory manufacturers, and they're like, "Yeah, we can get you that accessory by like December, 24th." I'm like, "Nah, dude, like, no, I'm not gonna ship packs over, the Christmas holiday again. That was a nightmare." So even this year, the cigars got delayed. We were waiting on, the 2-pack coffin for the CRA.
Yeah.
We were waiting on the coffins. The Garcias make that in the factory down in Nicaragua, and we were waiting for those coffins to show up. So it got pushed like, I think a total of like 3-4 weeks because of it. So there were delays all over the board. And again, we're trying to find unique swag items, and we couldn't really find anything that we were like, "Oh shit, we haven't done that." We've done pretty much every accessory known to man,
including Kleenex.
Yeah, right. we don't want to have to. I don't think anybody needs another cutter or a lighter, but I know guys like, right? So
yeah.
But we also want to make quality, what we believe is quality stuff. Like that Lotus cutter is actually a quality cutter. It just had a factory issue that no one knew about, even the people that own Lotus. I was joking the other day, like if someone wants me to, throw in a bunch of cheap swag, I can buy, a case, a lighter, and a cutter for $5 with the brand name on it, and put it in the kit, and it has a perceived value of X, but
that was with me.
To me, it's still kind of cheap,
That discussion was with me. You and I were texting about it.
Yeah. I don't want to put, what did I call it? Dollar store swag.
Yeah. Dollar store swag. Yeah. No, this is actually, so, I mean, this is a good time to shout out Casper, your longtime cohort, who does a lot of work with the Saints and Sinners group, because he helped me get in. I'm sporting my shirt. This is my first year in the group, and I was really pleased that you allowed me that privilege, because I know I was a little late to the trough on that, and Casper really helped me. I was having some technical difficulties. No faults on the site this time. That you were talking about earlier. This was all user error over here. I was like, man, I'm messing up. What, and I was emailing him back and forth, and bless his heart, he had the best patience
probably had
with
Kyle.
me.
He had Kyle process the shipment or the order, like while he was on the phone with you.
he was very patient with me, bless his heart. Like I said, I just couldn't, for whatever reason, it just wasn't working for me on my end. And I was like, did it go through? I can't see it. And he was like, no, not yet. And he's like, hey, try this. And I said, I can log in, but I couldn't place the order. And he's like, he was really great with me. I felt terrible that I just went back and forth, because I know we were in a time crunch, because we had already kind of passed the deadline a little bit, and I wanted to be respectful of the process. not take too much advantage of your offer and everything. So it was really great. And so yeah, I'm sporting the shirt tonight, and I got my pack the other day, and it was really excited, you know, for what I got inside of it. So yeah, I'm all for cigars too, because
Well, I'll say we always try to buffer, you know, what we're ordering. That way we have extras just in case we have those last minute guys that like they're I'll be honest, there's some guys that have been members since day one, and they always forget about it, and they hit us up like the week before and like, oh man, I forgot to join. Can you put me in? We're like, okay, you're a longtime member, legacy member. We want to make sure you're in the club. So there's always that, you know, the few stragglers like, oh man, I missed the email.
Yeah, Casper helped me out. He helped me get in the second year, because the first year, like I said, I was in Nicaragua and I was out there the whole time it was open, so I missed the window completely. And I remember I got back, and you had said, you know, talk to Casper, whatever, and we back and forth for a while. We just never could get it to work out. Year two comes around, I'm like, that's okay, I'll just join year two. Nicaragua again. But he held me a spot when I got back home and got reliable internet. We know how great the internet is in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
That I was able to finally get in, place my order, and finally got in year two with his help. So he's helped both of us to get in.
Yeah, I mean, the old days when we would do the launch, and it would be literally like, you got to join like now. It became a problem. And then when we started doing the referral thing, I thought it worked out better because it gave everybody more time to join. And again, now it's like, you know, we give everybody like a month and a half to join, and then get their referrals in if they want to. But there's always someone, you know, late. And, oh shit, man, I forgot about it. I was gonna hold off because I was waiting for, you know, a paycheck to come in, or I was just gonna hold off because I wasn't sure who I wanted to give my referral to, so I forgot about it. That type of shit.
Yeah. Well, Bear, I know we went off on a tangent here. It's like we probably should get back to our topic.
Yeah, no worries. So, so the next, obviously the next monster in the series was the Michael, which is what I smoked last night. You smoked first tonight. Excuse me, cross that over. I smoked first tonight. You smoked last night, and
yes.
I declared this last night, Pete, and I don't know how you feel about this at all, but I feel like the Michael, like you said, you received a little bit of criticism over it for various reasons, but I declared that I think the Michael is the most underrated monster of the group. I absolutely loved it, and as much as I love the Jason and favor the Jason above all others, the Michael is actually the cigar that I've smoked the most of. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. And it was a really unique blend that just came together really nicely. It's incredible. You mentioned it's this incredibly balanced blend. I was a huge fan of it right from the get, and it's been still smoking fantastic. I still have quite a few of the original, but that Habano wrapper that you used on it in particular was just lights out, really good with the Nicaraguan binder and fillers that she used on it. But
yeah, that cigar's got, you know, the cigar's got 2 leaves of Ligero in it. It's not a mild cigar on paper.
No,
but that wrapper and that lower priming, you know, Habano, it actually creams it out and gives it a weird balance, and it kind of makes it sneak up on you. So that's what the whole plan for that cigar was, for it to sneak up on you.
How do you feel about that declaration? I think it's the most underrated of all. Do you
yeah,
like that,
I would say it's one of the most underrated because of, you know, people look at lighter wrappers all the time and I don't know what it is, man. I love light wrappers. I love how much flavor you can get out of them. I love showing the expression between one cigar and another just by changing the priming of the wrapper. That's a big thing because it's really a teaching experience for people. It's a learning experience, and people can actually educate their palate more and understand that wrapper, like I can put 2 cigars together with the same exact blend and just go down the plant on the wrapper, and it makes a completely unique experience, and it kind of educates people's palates, and they can understand, like, oh wow, I had no idea that could change that so much. So, yeah, I would say that it's a good assessment. It's one of the more underrated.
So then this is just my lack of knowledge. Like you said, everything, as we've been talking about quite a bit tonight, there's so many intentional decisions that you've made over the years with these cigars, the size, the packaging, everything like that. What's the significance of the navy blue wrapper wrapper?
Oh,
The
the
navy
band?
blue band, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Bear.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to kind of model it after his jumpsuit color.
Oh, okay. There you
He-
go. Yeah, see.
He's kind of wearing that weird kind of like, I don't know, whatever you would call it. It's gray blue in a sense. That's where that kind of came from.
Speaking of that, do you know the mask he wore? Or does anybody know who that was?
William Shatner.
Yeah, Captain
Yeah.
Kirk. The Captain Kirk mask.
Kirk. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Ben's inner Trekkie is coming out here.
100%. 100%.
So,
yeah, that one last night when I smoked it, like we were talking about it, like to me, it didn't come off that full body, right? But like when it first started, it had a kind of a nice earthy punch to it, right? I guess it would be like the start of the Lajero coming in, but it's totally built up, like ever so slightly. It felt like it was. When I got to the end, I was like, "Damn, this has got a little bit of power to it." But like, I didn't really notice it. I didn't really notice it start ramping up until we would like do our little segments. I chop that we did because we do it live, and then I chop it up later for YouTube to put on the fucking Syndicate channel. So we would do these little segments, right? And then on the end, I'm like, damn, this thing is almost full body. It's like so it felt medium, and then at the end, I was like, damn, this is full body here. I didn't really notice it.
That's the magic of tobacco too. If you think about that, again, that cigar's got 2 leaves of Lajero in it. You would think it's just going to be balls out, but it's not. It's actually got this balance to it, which I love. I think that's honestly that particular blend is based off of another blend that I do, which is Kohonu 2003. And that cigar to me is one of the most balanced cigars, and the darker the wrapper, the more nuts and bolts you get out of it. The lighter the wrapper, you start getting those subtle flavors.
Yeah, it just happened to be because like we talk about tobaccos being, we noted this last night, just how tobacco's just nothing is you get them as uniform as you can in the box and everything, but from box to box and everything. Ben opened up his Monster Mash, and his Kruger was considerably notably, obviously with the San Andreas, was darker than his Michael, but mine were almost even. The Michael my Michael was almost a little bit darker than my Kruger, which was I found was really fascinating. Particularly on the Kruger side, that it took me a minute, and people if watched last night could recall, I was like from memory, I was trying to remember. I was like, this is supposed to be San Andreas, and it confused me because of how light the wrapper looked and everything. But I really like the Michael, just because, like you said, it kind of takes you on this trip, this real nice consistent journey that kind of just builds throughout, and that was kind of consistent with Ben's experience of it as well. This is my last question before we jump into the next monster here, Pete. So I noted that the Michael was the cigar that was the monster that I've smoked the most of over the years, and obviously because of a couple of these being more recent than others, the Bride, the Chuck, the Tiff, even the Creature, which we'll get into here in a little bit, being much newer. What's the monster that I won't ask you the what's your favorite? That's just stupid.
That I've smoked the most of?
Yeah, what's the one you've smoked the most of?
You know what? Obviously the Frank, I smoked a ton of those when I was putting it together. I smoked a lot of the new Redux when I was putting that together to make sure that that's a tough cigar. When you box press a double Corona, you're like always worried that they're going to have an issue with bunching it. So I wanted to make sure that was all, clean and everything. But I smoked a lot of Jason's, and yeah, I think if I have to go back and think about how, of each one, maybe it was the Kruger that I smoked the most of, because I was really just, I don't know, something about that blend hit my palate in a certain way, and I just kept on picking them up. It's not a small cigar, so I think I've smoked more in the Pudgies. I've probably smoked more tips than anything.
Interesting. Yeah, you mentioned
Yeah.
the Kruger. I thought you might say the Kruger because you mentioned that a little bit earlier, how many you smoked at the time. So, Ben, what about you? What's the one that you've smoked the most of over the years?
The Wolfman, for sure, no doubt. Just because that was one that, like I said, came into my shop in Biloxi. It was readily available to me. Like I said, I bought 2 boxes of those. One's still unopened, but I smoked through half one whole box, plus singles that I bought there. So it was that by far was the Wolfman.
Nice. It's a good cigar, man. I really love the Wolfman. I think the smaller the Wolf, though, the spicier they get.
Mm.
Like if you go for the full size, it seems to have a little bit more of those chocolate notes, and then you start going down, you start getting like a real heavy espresso note to it.
Oh, I got to go back and revisit that now and test that out, because that.
Well, I mean, like if I'm talking about size, if you go from the full size and then you do like the little,
The Wolf.
Yeah,
I mean the Pudgy, whatever, it ends up having either the Pudgy or the little. They have a little bit more, I would say, zip in a sense that Sumatra kind of takes over.
Well, I'm gonna go shake my box and see which one, if they don't have a card in there, and I'm gonna open that up. I'm gonna test that out.
You don't have to totally shake it. I think you can just kind of lean it back and forth, and you'll hear the card kind of like rolling around like a ball in a sense.
So the next iteration that you did, before we kind of jump into how you skipped ahead, to I want to go back. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but in 2016, you did the Skinnies series.
Yes.
Iteration. So, okay, so we went from the little monsters to the Pudgies, and now you did the Skinnies. So, all the Lancero fans are just like, freaking out now. But I'm a huge Lancero fan, as everybody knows. So this was a really exciting project for me. And again, it gave me another opportunity to go back to the Frank, which of course I never tried in the original release and the original size. So was that going back to intentions? Was that always the plan to go from Pudgy to Skinnies, or like, I mean, it seems natural.
Yeah, I would say that I was just always looking for some other, version to carry on the monster line, and that kind of made more sense than anything, was to do like essentially a petite Lancero version. I didn't want to do full Lanceros at the time, which we have, but in the sampler. But when the first sampler came out with the Skinnies, it was just a good way to express my love for small ring gauges, and hopes that people would like them also. That was a fairly decent sized production, but not nearly as big as like the Pudgies or the littles.
Right. And then the Cazadores Skinnies are different from the actual Skinnies. So this is important that there's a distinction here, because there is a distinction.
Yeah, it's like the Cazadores size. So it's the blend that we use in every monster, but then in the Cazadores size, which is actually probably my favorite size cigar. I love a good Cervantes / Cazadores size, or Dahlia. This is 6 3/8 by 43. It's just one of those kind of gentleman cigars for me, and it gives you all the flavor that you want out of that 43 that you could get out of a bigger ring gauge too.
Yeah, and that was released the following year. So 16 was the set.
Mm-hmm.
The Skinnies, and then the regular. Are they still regular? The Cazadores Skinnies, are they still regular production, Pete? Or
yeah, the Skinny Monster, Cazadore, and Lancero editions are regular production. But when I say regular, we're making, I don't know, 500-600 boxes of each a year. There's still a small core group of retailers that like to bring in the different samplers we do, and we try to have those on hand throughout the year. I think this year has been the toughest year to make sure that we have them, though, because of the box delays. So those have been coming up in small waves. I think we just got a shipment in recently, but I think from what I know, it's just to fulfill back orders.
So we'll come back to 11 and 12 here in a little bit. But because again, you going back to what we were talking about, over the years, you caught some criticism, and one of the criticisms how you jumped to 13 with the Bride. So the Bride comes out, which basically concluded the series, which is what your intention was from the very beginning, and to kind of bring things back full circle and everything. When the Bride came out, I think that in particular, a lot of people, including our colleague on Cigar Coop, Will, was really, I don't know why I called him Will. I never called him Will, but Coop was really excited about the packaging. He really loved the graphic, and I thought that it really captured this kind of very, the essence of the Bride and everything, a very, very, very much respect to the past and everything. How was it a sense of like relief now that this kind of had concluded the way that you had wanted? Did you feel a lot of satisfaction in what you've accomplished over the years with this series, or was it did you kind of mourn over the fact that this was the end?
No, it was always, I always wanted to get back to going through the lineup again, to show the people that didn't get a chance to smoke the earlier ones. I wanted to give them a chance to get into the line even more. And it was to the point where it was like, okay, I did Chuck and Tiff and the Pudgy, so I'll call those number 11 and number 12, and I'll just jump to 13 and be done with it. And that's where, I had people like, why don't you do 11 and 12? I'm like, I did. Chuck and Tiff, they're there. They're part of the lineup. And that's why I was really secretive about when I was doing 11 and 12 together, because I didn't want anybody to know that I was actually going to make them in a fuller size. But yeah, it was more like, okay, there was every year there's a headache with it. I mean, every year there was a distribution headache. There was, complaints from the retail base. They didn't get enough of them. And I wanted to figure out some other new plan for the series. And this was my way of kind of just like being done with it and like start from scratch again. It was never going to be done. People actually thought I was discontinuing the line. I mean, that would be stupid. Like it's become a thing and a brand for Tatuaje, and I would be just completely off my rocker if I said I was never going to make another monster again. So it was a way to kind of finalize it so I could go back to Route 1. I was actually glad that I waited, because the timing worked out perfectly with doing Chuck and Tiff together the next year, and then doing the interim year of the Karloff. I could land on 2021 and start with number 1. So now every year is going to be in line with the year that it is.
There you go. Ben, anything else you wanted to add on the Bride before we go into Chuck and Tiff here?
No, that's good. We covered that.
So Ben, share with Pete your experiences with the two that came out together, the Chuck and the Tiff here.
Yeah, those I really enjoyed the Chuck. The Tiff one just wasn't for me. It didn't hit for some reason. And that's the one I thought out of really all the monsters would be my favorite, because that one, because I love Connecticut shade wrappers. I love Connecticut cigars. So that one I just thought would be amazing. But I don't know if you remember this, but quite a few years back, whenever you put out the Fausto de la Casita Criolla,
Yeah.
Everybody had put out that La Casita Criolla is like their number one cigar. Well, that's what I was still going to review. Broad Hewitt put that as his number one. And I remember I kept smoking that over and over again. It was something on that cigar. I was like, it was like my palate did not like it. Like it was something like off. And I remember, and I talked to you, I said, man, I have to admit, there's something about the cigar. I just don't like it. You said, yeah, but you love the Fausto, don't you? I'm like, yeah, I love the Fausto. He said, yeah. He said, I can't make a cigar everybody loves. I mean, these two cigars are for two different kind of people.
Yeah, because La Casita was really a love or hate cigar, to be honest. It was made for a certain reason. And you know, blending 100% broadleaf in a cigar is not easy, but at the same time, it ended up being fairly easy for me because it was a hard concept for me to explain to the family when I said I wanted to do it, because they are like, how are we supposed to blend it? And I go, just do it. Take a Tatuaje brown label, but just replace everything with broadleaf. So if you have one Seiko, you have one Visa, one Lajero, it's a pretty basic classic blend. But again, all broadleaf is a little too overwhelming for some people. I just like broadleaf because, especially that one, because for me it was more of a chewing cigar. I love chewing on that cigar.
Yeah, I bet I smoked through 2.5 boxes trying to figure out why I didn't like that one, like why that blend didn't work. Because everybody's telling me, man, that's the greatest thing that's come out. Like, I don't know, how do you not like that? I'm like, I don't know. Is it me? It's got to be me. Give me another one. Let me smoke one. I went through a ton of them, but the Fausto, man, oh my God, that one was so good to me. And it's so
sorry,
what?
Ben, did I ever tell you the story that that was the one reason why I did La Casita, was because when I was younger, I would see all these broadleaf, Connecticut made, machine made things like Judge's Caves and Moneymakers and stuff like that, and toppers.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Dave Topper, actually, and he goes, yeah, the cigars weren't 100% broadleaf. I go, what? And he goes, the wrapper was, but we would always put on the box it was 100% broadleaf, in the sense that they were talking about the wrapper. I'm like, God damn it, I based the whole line off of something I thought
wow
was there, thinking I was paying homage to old school, Connecticut broadleaf or Connecticut River cigars, and realizing that they weren't all broadleaf.
No, that's the first I've heard of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But so that's what I was going to say. That's when I was smoking the Chuck and the Tiff, that came back into my mind when you told me that. I was like, oh, okay. I don't feel so bad the word the Tiff didn't hit me like the Chuck did. Like the Chuck, I really liked it. The Tiff, it's not that I didn't like it. It was something that, like, it wasn't my favorite. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll tell you that I think out of the Connecticut stuff, with like especially the Tiff, that's the one cigar that I found that they smoked even better and better as they sat longer and longer. That's why the pudgy Tiffs, I just kept, I went down like a rabbit hole with those things. I just kept on smoking them because I had bundles around the office. I'm like, I'll just grab a bundle of Tiffs, because it was a peaceful, calm cigar, had flavor, and as the older they got, the more the flavor came out. So it's possible maybe the Chuck was banging at that moment, but the Tiff will come into its space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always a fan in comparison to the two. I thought they were both really good, but I was always a fan more of the Tiff than I was, even from the pudgy into when you the actual release of the full size version of it. I gravitated more towards the Tiff than I did the Chuck, for I don't know reasons. But to go back to your segue into La Casita Criolla, what I really liked about that cigar, and I actually had, which was ironic because of the tobaccos involved with that, I had to, in order to get in my opinion, my experience, in order to get the most out of that blend, I had to smoke it first for the day, because I felt like it kind of, if I smoked it after something, it just wasn't as good of an experience, and it kind of got lost for some reason. Which was interesting when you think about the tobacco that it's made of. but I smoked quite a few of them, but not for Ben's reason of exploration. I enjoyed it, but I had to smoke it first kind of throughout the day and everything. Well, the Fausto has been kind of this workhorse for you over the years and everything, but I mean, do you think we'll be able to, I mean, again, with the crunch of broadleaf in the recent years and everything, do you ever think we'll see La Casita a little again?
Yeah, no. I'm potentially going to use the La Casita line to do something different because I know I don't want to get into the whole issue with utilizing that much broadleaf in a blend, knowing that the broadleaf can be used for other things. And ever since we started making La Dueña utilizes a lot of broadleaf, so I want to make sure the focus is on that, obviously. But La Casita, I've done, I don't know, about a half a dozen different versions of La Casita that I've been playing with, and I absolutely love them. I just can never settle on what I want to do with the line. So for right now, it's just one of those lines that's kind of sitting on the back burner, but we still have it in like the Lancero samplers.
Mhm.
Like, we don't do La Riqueza right now, aside from the one we did at the trade show. But we have always had it in the sampler for the Lancero sampler. So it's one of those things that I'm using the brand. I'm just not going full board with it. And honestly, for me, the packaging on La Casita for me was one of the coolest things that I ever did, because I was actually trying to impress an old friend of mine that's been historic in this industry. I think he's the longest standing member of the PCA. I can't even remember how many years he's been part of it, but he's really into old packaging, old Cuban packaging, and he was waiting for me to do something to impress him. And when I came out with La Casita, he just looked at the box and stared at it. He goes, "I love it. I love everything you did with the filetes, the little papeleta, the stickers on the sides, everything." He was impressed by that one. So I was proud to put a smile on an old man's face.
Nice. So this next one concludes our venture down into the Monster Mash series. So we finally get to see a new monster, which is the creature.
Yeah.
So this is the last of the Monster Mash, and the newest addition to the monster family. And this has been something that's been almost like people have been talking about, because people are always trying to predict what the next monster was going to be, and the creature has been something that's kind of come up over the years and everything. So is that, is fanfare the reason you decided to go down this route, or what was the motivation to go with to add the creature into this collection?
No, I mean, I wanted to add something, fun in the box that you couldn't get anywhere else. Instead of just doing a smaller version of every monster, I wanted to add like a bonus cigar in the sense. I love the blend. The blend is actually 100% Nicaraguan. It's all, grown by the family. The wrapper is actually Corojo 99 Maduro, shade grown. So it's got a lot of body character and sweetness to it. Will I come out with a full-size creature? Maybe, but it will not be released around Halloween, because I want to make sure that I stick with my plan of the 13 years. I'll be honest, when it comes to cigars like Jekyll and Hyde, I might trip it up a little bit and change the blends in those.
Okay.
So like there's certain cigars I want to make sure I do again, but sometimes, like even with the Frank, I made sure that it had a covered foot this time, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't identical to the original Frank. I also put an embossed band on it instead of just a flat band on it. I want to make sure that there's a new expression of it. And most of them will continue with those expressions. But I've fast forward in many years, I've been thinking it was like maybe I should do Jekyll and Hyde and do a different version of them, just to trip it up a little bit. We'll see. That's 7 years down the road, so we're good for now.
Well, that would make sense too with these intentions that we've been talking about all this time. Because I mean, if any of these are going to morph, it would be the Jekyll and the Hyde, because that's the backstory of it. And to Ben's point earlier about human nature, how human nature is constantly developing and everything. So that's kind of almost perfect. Ben and I talked about this last night, and Coop and I talked about it on our show a couple years ago when we did an exploration of this collection, which was what were some of the monsters that we would pick, like, what would we create? And we threw out some names and everything. And one of the things that came up last night, and I figured, I was like, well, you've kind of already done it with the pumpkins, but like the Headless Horseman was one I always kind of thought of too.
That name came up a few times. I think actually someone might have done it though. I don't know why I saw the Headless Horseman somewhere one year. This was like probably about 10 years into the monsters that I thought someone was, jumping on that. I was like, well, that's cool. I wasn't planning on doing it. The pumpkin was there. But yeah, like obviously the creature, because I couldn't do Swamp Thing because that's owned by someone else. But the creature made more sense because the old Universal character. Yeah, I mean, people ask me for Pinhead all the time.
Oh my God, that's where I was leading into.
Yeah,
We talked about, so last night of the show, we talked about like, what would be, we asked the audience, like, what would be something you would, want to do? And Jay Davis from Blue Smoke would mention Pinhead. Now, we talked about, I'm not a fan of the horror genre, and stuff, but I've always thought Hellraiser was a really cool movie. And I thought Pinhead was a really interesting character as well. So I was like, damn, that would be a badass monster cigar, especially if you could make the box. And I couldn't remember the name of the box that they had in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Put the cigars inside that box somehow. That'd be really wicked.
Yeah, that would be way too much work for the factory too. So I'll probably lean against it. I mean, like, what do you do for a Pinhead anyways? You do it like a long lancero. That's what I think of, as soon as I think of Pinhead.
100%, yeah.
But yeah, and you could do a long lancero, but do like a torpedo head to it or a bellicoso head to it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Which is fairly easy. It's funny though, because the Fuente family, when they came out with the Petite Lancero in the Opus X line originally, that had a pigtail to it. And a few years, maybe 1 or 2 years into it, I think it was, I don't know the whole back end story, but I almost feel like Carlito was kind of upset that every time people would peel him out of the cellophane, the pigtail would rip off.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned it into a slightly tapered, almost bellicoso torpedo head to it instead. So if I was to do anything, I'd probably steer away from it just because I don't want to step on Carlito's dick. So yeah, that's his thing. That's the only idea I would come up with though. So I don't know. We'll see.
I try to
stay in my own lane.
Yeah, I get that. I totally understand that. And one thing we had talked about too, kind of going along with that same thought process, was doing something that had a tie back in Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And like Bear brought up one called the Norman.
Yeah, Norman Bates.
Yeah, that I wouldn't even know what to do for that one.
I suggested it'd be entirely draped in tissue paper to represent like the shower curtain, sort of, or his delicate nature, with his relationship with his mother. You can almost do that. We had some fun last night as we kind of talked through some of these things. Like but this is the point that it brings it to bring it to a head here, Pete, is that what you've created over the last 10 plus years with this series is this constant discussion that, you know, all your consumers and all your fans have kind of come to really enjoy with this series. And with all some of the criticisms and acclaims with it that it's come with it, it's generated a generation of fans that are constantly on the edge of their seat of what's the next iteration. What do you like? We're always the what's new, but this is different because it's about the same series and stuff. So
yeah, it's wild for me to know, like, over the years to find out, you know, who collects them, and like I see the craziest collections from people I would never expect that they would actually collect these things, and people that are fairly well known that they have the boxes stashed because they like the artwork. You know, like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Mhm.
I never expected it to be where it's at. But yeah, it's become a part of Tatuaje as a whole. So it's definitely not going anywhere. But how creative will I get outside of what's already there? We'll see. The question right now is the creature. Can they get more of that size that's in the box? Will there be a full size? Will there be a re-release of just that smaller one that's in the box? Potentially. And will there be a full size? Yes, potentially also. But like I said, I'd probably release a full size somewhere outside of the normal Halloween release.
Well, that's something I was going to ask too. Was with the success of this, with the Monster Mash, would you ever? Are you going to release these in their own boxes, each cigar, kind of like the way you did the Skinnies?
No, yeah, it's come up in conversation about doing Robusto versions of every cigar. So not the shape of the monster, but Robusto versions, kind of like the Skinnies, which are Petite Lancero versions of every cigar, and do them in the same, you know, stand-up pencil box, but in Robustos. If I did them, I might do them slowly and not try to launch all of them at the same time. Like we did with the Skinnies. And honestly, the Skinnies, when I was repackaging the black label to lay down boxes, I got rid of the black label Petite Lancero in the stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Dan from Surrogates. He's the one that said, you should use that box that you're not using on black labels and do them in all the colorways of the Skinnies, because it's a great visual for retail stores and for the shelf, and plus it looked really cool in the booth. So, and it's wild, you know, looking at the sales and the production levels of the Skinnies in the pencil box over the years. They're all pretty close to being even. There's a couple standouts like Frank, of course, Jason, maybe Wolfman. But everything else, you're talking about maybe a difference of like 50 boxes, which is nothing when it comes to the grand scheme of it. Mm-hmm. So I was actually surprised. I just looked at that number the other day. I was like, wow. Because I was like, what if I were to get rid of any of them? Would I get rid of any? And then I looked at the numbers, like, I can't. Someone's going to be pissed off if I get rid of one of them. Because they don't all sell in every store. There's certain stores that one is the one that they do really well with.
Yeah.
It's like with all the brands that we do, there are stores around the country that do really well with certain brands. And then you can go down, 50 miles down the road, and that other store is doing way better with a brand that guy can't even sell. So you just never know. The market's too vast, and there's too many people enjoying what they love to enjoy, and it can't always be the same cigar. That goes back to the Chuck and Tiff argument or the Jekyll and Hyde argument. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes it works for some people, but doesn't for others.
That's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just to put a cap on this before our last question of the evening, I thought the most creative and unique suggestion that I've heard in recent years came last night, and he just said it again in the chat. And it's actually absolutely comical, and I would love to see what you would do with it, which is the bunny from Monty Python.
Oh man,
Hey,
yeah,
that's Jay.
I
That's
wouldn't
Jay
even.
Davis, by the way. Got to give all credit to Jay. Blue Smoke Dallas. Man, that
Dude,
would
I
be.
wouldn't even know.
No, this is the suggestion that I had. We were talking about it last night. We had a great laugh, and Ben's praying that I don't utter a line from Monty Python because we won't stop if we do. But I said, well, you did the lighter series with the Jekyll and Hyde so well, and you've done lighters over the years and stuff. I said the lighter's already done for you, Pete, with the bunny, man. It's going to be the fucking holy hand grenade.
Jesus. Yeah, you know it's funny because I haven't watched Monty Python since I was probably in junior high. So because in junior high, I think we knew every line of every Monty Python movie. I can't even recite one now. Like that's how long it's been.
Oh, do you want to go do it?
I was going to say, if you ever got the time, Ben and I will do the whole movie for you. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I haven't watched the Holy Grail since probably like last week or something.
It's been a couple months for me, but yeah, I still love that film. I love it. It's fantastic. Well, Pete, we got one last question for you to cap off the evening. And this has been a tremendous evening. Thank you so much for doing an exploration of the Monster Mash and the whole series. What a history lesson this has been. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I'm thrilled that I could do it with you in particular, obviously, and then for Ben to be along for this exploration has just been thrilling for me. So thank you so much for your time. As always, you're so gracious and so generous with it, and I can't thank you enough. So thank you very much.
No, you're welcome.
But the last question of the night, of course, is always our curveball segment. And our curveball segment is always brought to you by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Sock has been knocking them out of the park 6 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Yep, I looked it up and even got fact checked by our good friend Cigar Coop. And not to mention top three cigars in the top 25 for last year for Half Wheel for Mr. Pete Johnson. So got to note that if we are mentioning those guys. So hopefully you have continued success and can build upon that as a trend. But here's the curveball question for you, Pete. We spent the entire evening exploring monsters, and you've created, like we said, this iconic series for the premium cigar industry that's really captivated everybody. But why did you do monsters instead of music?
Well, music was obviously a theme. Sports were a theme too. I had a brand that I wanted to do called Rivals, and it was based off of heavy rivals in different sports. Obviously, I wasn't going to use their logos, but I'd use something that people would understand. That meant maybe like on the front of the box, I was going to do Lakers Celtics. So use the boxes were going to be in the colors of Lakers Celtics, and there would be a basketball in the middle between the two boxes that would meet up. So you'd put them on the shelf. The year that I was going to do that, the Lakers and the Celtics went to the championship. So I was like, I guess I missed out on that one. But I mean, there's so many rivals. I think actually, I want to say General and Ernie ended up doing a cigar called Rivals, so I can't do it anymore. But the Rivals theme made perfect sense because there's so many sports rivals out there that you could have a cool theme behind it. And again, treading very lightly when it comes to trademarks. Obviously, just colorways wouldn't do anything, and just an image of the actual ball or puck or whatever, but no logos involved. Obviously, just colors. Because I don't want to get sued by the NBA or the NFL or any of these people or MLB. I'll steer very far away from that shit. Yeah, music was always a theme, but then, a buddy of mine, John Huber, he's always been in the music thing. So I always kind of joked with John. I'm like, you're not even a musician, dude. Like, seriously. Like, I know he loves music a lot, and he comes up with great, clever ideas that have the theme around music. So I decided it was just, I'll let someone else take care of that. I'll stick with the monster stuff. Why not use it?
Speaking of rivals,
Yeah.
Ever since you gave me this hat, you told me, well, I don't know if I'll give you the Atlanta Falcons colors. That's like stuck in the back of my mind ever since then. So now you got to come out with a black and gold version to counter this rivalry.
Yeah, Dan wanted me to do the Steelers colorway. When we were doing the 3, we kept on adding colorways, and I was like, let me just do the 3 for now. And because they're not meant to be the colorways of well, I mean, obviously the Miami one, the Dolphin colorway, it makes sense. Out of all people that love the Miami one, our lawyers here down in Miami, they love that because they're Dolphin fans anyway. So
yeah,
I feel sorry for them, but they're Dolphin fans.
For better or worse.
What I just keep telling myself, though, Manchester United, they use these colors too. Try to keep the Falcons out of this.
Well, I think you've had the upper hand in that rivalry over the years, even though they've had some success here and there. Ben, I think the Saints have in recent memory have taken over the Falcons in that rivalry. So I think it will always stay that way too.
Yeah, it's a good concept. Obviously the music, but John does it really well because he's always got some idea of how a cigar gets created, and that's his thing. I'll let him deal with that. I got other shit to deal with. The monsters are a headache enough.
Well, speaking of John, but none of us could think of it earlier, but of course Coop came to the rescue. You had mentioned that there was a trademark issue with the Headless Horseman, and there was CAO was actually holds the trademark on the Headless Horseman. So
I remember seeing it. So there you go.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for a wonderful show tonight. Thanks to our audience for hanging in there late with us as we kind of did this exploration. It's been, like I said, it was a fantastic take, a monster take. I'm still sticking with that, pun intended, all the way. And what a fantastic adventure this has been. So thank you, Pete, for all the years that you've brought this to us. And we'll continue to, like you said, you'd be crazy not to. So I'm gonna hold you to that. You'll be crazy to get away from it. So it's been fantastic. We can't see where it goes from in the years in the future. You're certainly not done yet, and we're on pins and needles to see where it kind of goes in the future. So thank you so much with that. Thanks to our audience. You can check us out on our YouTube page, ELOSOFUMAR, as well as our Facebook page too. Don't forget to hit the like or subscribe buttons. If you are listening to us later, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure you hit the download, subscribe, and review buttons. If you are a subscriber, please do me a favor, unsubscribe, but don't forget to hit resubscribe. That helps me with my numbers and allows me to keep bringing Pete back. So you definitely want to do that. As always, everyone out there, this was our 190th take. Done 190 of these. This was a monster one. We really appreciate everyone out there. I'm gonna just milk this as much as I can here. So thank you so much, everyone out there. We'll see you next week. Of course, I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studios of Euless, Texas. Guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.